a hole here in this underground bunker. This is a former Ukrainian military position on the front line of what was the Ukraine war front line for the last 8 years. But DPR forces and Russian forces have captured this position and area that we're in the southern part of the Donetsk People's Republic and Russian-controlled territory. And we're here in this military position right near this village that was Granatne, as the name of the village, which was not long ago taken control of by DPR and Russian forces. And we can see the position here. Some military bags and boxes. So we're going to continue to show you everything that's going on here on the ground in these newly captured and controlled territories. And we'll show you what the people are living and how the people are living. I'm Patrick Lancaster, and this is a special report for Republic Media Network. And right behind me, you can see a hole here in this underground bunker. This is a former Ukrainian military position on the front line of what was the Ukraine war front line for the last 8 years. But DPR forces and Russian forces have captured this position and area that we're in the southern part of the Donetsk People's Republic and Russian-controlled territory. And we're here in this military position right near this village that was Granatne, as the name of the village, which was not long ago taken control of by DPR and Russian forces. And we can see the position here. Some military bags and boxes. So we're going to continue to show you everything that's going on here on the ground in these newly captured and controlled territories. And we'll show you what the people are living and how the people are living. I'm Patrick Lancaster, and this is a special report for Republic Media Network. And right behind me, you can see a hole here in this underground bunker. This is a former Ukrainian military position on the front line of what was the Ukraine war front line for the last 8 years. But DPR forces and Russian forces have captured this position and area that we're in the southern part of the Donetsk People's Republic and Russian-controlled territory. And we're here in this military position right near this village that was Granatne, as the name of the village, which was not long ago taken control of by DPR and Russian forces. And we can see the position here. Some military bags and boxes. So we're going to continue to show you everything that's going on here on the ground in these newly captured and controlled territories. And we'll show you what the people are living and how the people are living.
Take a look at this very place where I'm reporting from. This is just the other side of the camera and show you. This is one extension of the building. So this connects to the newer building that has been created. That's the multi-storied building. And on the other side, take a look at that. That's a cathedral that has come under attack. So just yesterday, we were told by the Ukrainian army that right now what is happening is that even religious places in Ukraine have come under attack. Take a look at this side of the building that has been attacked. So it is not just, but we are talking about places, schools that have come under attack, hospitals that have come under attack, and also we're now being told that civilian buildings in this area have come under attack. Important to point out here is the fact that how things have been changing over the last 13 days. In fact, we're being told after this bombing that took place in the school, there was another bombing that took place, and that bombing was actually in a hospital.
पहली मर्तबा युद्ध के क्षेत्र में सुखोई का इस्तेमाल करके ऐसी तबाही हुई है। आप चारों तरफ जहां भी आपकी नजर जाएगी वहां आपको सिर्फ और सिर्फ तबाही नजर आएगी।
Well, viewers, welcome back. We are in fact being joined by two very special guests, Tatiana Kureva and also Yuvenkia is also joining us there on the broadcast. We are seeing how there is a rapid development on the ground taking place and we are getting some more inputs of the sporadic Russian bombing also that is taking place on the ground in the backdrop of the very important diplomatic conversations that are all set to take place between Ukraine and Russia. This also comes in the backdrop of the conversations that has taken place between Israel Prime Minister and the Russian President as well. Tatiana, to you first, if I could come to you. How do you read this entire situation? We have seen rapid developments in the last few hours where there is intervention that is coming in from Turkey, there is an intervention coming in from Israel, and also now Zelensky is saying that he is ready to have a direct conversation with Vladimir Putin.
Well, first of all, it took him long enough. The Ukrainian president has been postponing those talks for over a week now, since the Russian side has said from the very beginning that we're open for talks. However, as far as I understand, the proposed talks on Ukrainian soil. In the meantime, look, the developments that I'm not quite sure what you're talking about when you speak of developments. We've literally seen the same picture for a week now. I've listened to your report. In your report it says that, look, the Ukrainian military is saying this and this and this. Unfortunately, the data coming from Ukraine's military has been more than questionable so far. There have been multiple shellings that they literally blamed on the Russian side. In the meantime, they actually conducted them themselves. We've seen civilians being evacuated from Mariupol. The evacuation that was sabotaged by the Ukrainian side for hours before it could actually begin, and then those civilians told journalists on the other side that the Ukrainian forces were destroying civilian quarters, places where people live, and then it gets blamed on Russia. So again, as I've already called upon so many times within this past week, I'd call for for journalists on the ground to be a little bit more careful with the information coming from Ukraine's military. Unfortunately, it has to be authenticated, if can be.
Tatiana, stay on with us. We also have Eugenia, who is in fact a Ukrainian member of parliament as well. To you now, how do you see this entire situation developing diplomatically now that there is intervention from Israel and also from Turkey, and now that Zelensky is ready to speak to President Putin directly? What do you see the ramification of this on the ground happening, and are you there in Ukraine right now? What is the situation like there?
Of course, I'm in Ukraine, and you just heard a few minutes ago a Russian propaganda. This is not a journalist. All the journalists who are journalists in Russia have been closed. This is the picture of 18-month-old child who was shot by Russians in Mariupol when the child was going into the Green Corridor. You are putting such lies in all the world. You see, you will not get away from this because all
and you
Russian
prove it was a Russian
journalists are
missile.
helping
You're also not
Putin
answering the question.
to put this propaganda in the eyes and ears of people around the world will also be punished, because this child was killed today in the morning because their parents thought that Russians will give the green corridor to the people from Mariupol. And you see, I can't even find words to the lies you're putting in your people's ears. Because in Russia, in fact, you closed how many media? You closed all the media who do not put the Russian official position. You closed Dozhd, you closed Meduza. I'm a journalist myself as well. I know what I'm talking about. About President Zelensky, he was ready to talk directly to Putin 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Putin is in his bunker, not in Moscow, but in his bunker, and trying to save his ass, I would say. And we're getting the help from all the world. On your side, you have what? I don't know even what countries. The North Korea, that's your ally. That's a good example in what your country will be in few months, because you are closed from everything. All the cards, all the banks are going from you, and we will do everything we can do to put the full embargo on Russia. Believe me, these deaths of children will not go away. You are smiling. It's funny for you. 38 children are dead because of your Russian dictator wanted to put the war. I'm sorry, I can't stay in one TV online with this person who is smiling because I'm telling about deaths of children. 38 children dead. Deal with it.
Also, Tatiana, if I could also come to you, we have seen how the ground images, in fact, have been developing, and the kind of sporadic bombing that is, in fact, being carried out by the Russian troops on the ground as well. And we see now strategic bombing being done. There is an airport as well that has been targeted. Giuliani Airport was another one that the Russian troops were trying to target. And we see now Russians also not walking the talk when it comes to the humanitarian corridors, isn't it?
Well, it depends on who you listen to. You know, if you listen to the person that was just talking, I'm not quite sure, how to even call that rant and not answering a question at all. It's also nice to see that coming on air. Russia has many allies, including India. And we are on Indian TV right now, so at least, have respect for that. Look, the Ukrainians have been blaming so much of the things that cannot be authenticated. Look, this, again, you see a picture of one child and then they say it's 38. But they have no proof of those 38 children. Otherwise, it would have been on air all around the world, wouldn't it? You're saying that Russia is not respecting that no fire agreement. Well, look, according to Russian military data, it's the Ukrainian side that hasn't been respecting it. And there have been videos published, there has been proof published. Unfortunately, since our media have been stifled in the Western world, it's very difficult to show the real picture of what's going on the ground. But it's just a matter of whether you are ready to talk to listen to this, the accusations without grounds. That's it. That's as simple as that. When it comes to the events on the ground, again, Russian military, if the goal was to destroy buildings, hospitals, schools, look, it's done in a matter of 2 days. It's very easily done. We've seen it done, during American airstrikes, and Russian military is more than capable of doing that. If it wanted to do that, then there would be no Ukraine to talk about. The Russian military has been avoiding civilian casualties at all costs costs. And the fact that we're still in this over a week since the beginning just proves my point. But in the meantime, if you want to listen to, the accusations coming from the Ukrainian side, then yes, by all means, let's do that.
Well, yes, I want to thank both my guests for joining us here on the broadcast with their perspective on what's really happening with Ukraine. We have seen how there is sporadic bombing by the Russian troops, even now that it continues in the backdrop of the diplomatic talks that are all set to take place as well. I want to thank both my guests, and let's also take a look at this 1-minute report from Ukraine.
I'll show my viewers right now that take a look at this entire 360-degree view that I'll give you. And here what you see right now on your screens, these are residential buildings, right, Andre? These are residential buildings nearby?
Yeah, that's it. And this school was one of the best school of this city, and it was you see how it was destroyed, and you can see that building that also had been damaged.
That's the church, if I'm not wrong?
Yeah, that's definitely the church.
Okay, that's the church. So in fact, the latest information that we do have at our disposal is that not just schools and colleges, universities that have been attacked by the Russian troops, but what you're looking at is that civilian areas, large areas, large residential buildings that have come under attack. In fact, Andre is also confirming that there is information that we have with regards to residential area in Sotomay itself that has come under attack.
Up next, viewers, we're getting you some breaking updates as far as Belarus is concerned. The head of the General Staff of Belarus, Kyiv, in fact, has resigned. He reported that he hadn't been able to organize any battalion tactical group. Belarus people do not want this fight against Ukraine. Now, there is a massive development when it comes to Belarus, who has been playing as an ally of Russia and had also been helping Russia escalate the invasion of Ukraine on the ground as well. And now we see the Belarusian General Staff, in fact, has resigned. And in his resignation letter, we have that letter as well. We will be putting that out for you as well very shortly. But in that letter, he very clearly states that he has not been able to organize any battalion tactical group, and the people of Belarus do not want this fight against Ukraine. As far as Belarus is concerned, who was looked upon as the ally of Russia by the rest of the world, also the West, where there are several sanctions that have also been levied on Belarus because of their role in helping Russia as well. There were images that we had also seen, viewers, of armored vehicles being allowed to move via Belarus towards Ukraine, and Russian troops also being allowed movement in that particular area. There is a reason that the Russian delegation also wanted the first round of peace talks to also take place in Belarus, to which Ukraine had actually denied. And now we see that picture getting a lot more clearer with this resignation letter that has come to light of the General Staff of Belarus, who has essentially said that the people of Belarus do not want anything to do with this fight that is happening between Russia and Ukraine. Really going to tell how the kind of way in which Belarus has also gotten in the middle of this entire invasion of Ukraine that is being carried out by Russia. And we had seen earlier as well how Belarus's role had become very, very clear with images and with the diplomatic talks that had come to light and the statements that had been coming from the Belarusian president as well, who was also lashing out against the West, lashing out against NATO forces as well, saying that this kind of an economic war on Russia will not do well for the world as well. And now we see this kind of a resignation letter of a General Staff of Belarusian government, in fact, who has now said, who has resigned and has stated that the people of Belarus, in fact, don't want to fight against the Ukrainians. They do not want to make an enemy out of their neighboring country as well. And now we see this really is the sentiment that we get to know from this particular resignation letter. Of course, viewers, as of now, these are claims that are coming in from the Ukrainian media as well. A lot of information warfare that is going on between Belarus, Russia and Ukraine now also, where there are information that is being sent out by the Ukrainian media, of course, and also from the Russian media, where we had seen several videos that had also been released to kind of show a strength on the ground as well, and how it would also lead to a psychological warfare when it comes to the diplomatic talks that were all set to take place between the Ukrainian and the Russian delegation. Now in the latest, this is a claim, again viewers, this is a claim that has come out from the Ukrainian media as well, that really goes to tell us a bigger picture of where really Belarus stands when it comes to the Ukrainian invasion by Russia, and also the sentiment that the Belarusian officials in fact also share when it comes to the resignation letter. We have in fact the resignation letter with us. Of course, we have to reiterate the fact that these are claims. These are claims that have been given out by the Ukrainian media, and now we see the general staff really saying that the civilians of Belarus in fact do not want to harm Ukrainians. Remember viewers, we have seen sporadic bombing, strategic bombing being carried out by the Russian troops across Ukraine, specifically near Kyiv and also in the southern regions of Ukraine as well. And now we see the kind of statement that is coming out, the statements that are in fact coming out from the Ukrainian media with respect to the...
Joining us on this broadcast, Republic Media Network, one of the few global channels to have covered a length and breadth of Ukraine. We are currently standing in Sotomay, where a residential building, a hospital was damaged. The mayor has spoken to Republic TV. He says that the Russian aerial bombardment that's taking place has led to a large-scale devastation. What is it that you would like to tell our viewers? What's the current situation in terms of the offensives that have been carried out by the Russian side?
We are fighting on every single front line. The reality is that for Ukraine, this is a battle for our existence, our very survival. And us, the biggest nation in Europe, is facing this battle alone. The reality is Russia is breaking every single rule of the international community. That country which is disregarding the rules of the national world order needs to be punished for that, needs to be expunged from the global community. It needs to feel what it actually results in, to, again, break any semblance of international law in our region. So the fact of the matter is we need to reconsider, and all the countries around the world need to reconsider their relationship with Russia, because Russia is showing its true face to the world right now. As far as the battle going on in Kyiv, it's basically a battle for the outskirts. We are trying to keep the city from being surrounded. Our capital city needs to be supplied. That's why the west supply routes are kept open by our brave soldiers. I'm joining them every single day, as well as bringing different supplies to them and letting them carry on the fight fully armed and fully dressed and fully well fed. The point is that, again, we'll keep the Russians away from our supply lines and keep preparing our capital for whatever Russians throw at us, because we are sticking with it. We are keeping our country ours no matter what.
Also, what I would like to ask you is that do you believe that the room for negotiation with Russia has been completely closed, given the fact that despite the kind of requests that have been made by your president to the world, even to Russia, that perhaps there is still time for them to withdraw? That's not happening. So do you believe that the room for negotiation with Russia has been completely shut?
Russia thinks that yesterday there was supposed to be humanitarian relief and humanitarian convoy coming out of some of the besieged cities in the south. The Russians shelled that convoy. Russians shelled those civilians. And again, Russia is showing its true face time and time again. And I'm glad that the world is waking up to the reality of what Russia tries to do in Ukraine and all over the world. The question is, how will the world react to this unbelievable, indescribable travesty that Russia is perpetrating in the biggest state in Europe and trying to destroy it for the sake of its own imperialistic ambitions, trying to bring together its colonial past in this country, trying to rekindle the empires long gone. So the point is, again, the world needs to see this what it is. Colonial land grab of Ukraine by Russia needs to respond in kind.
because we are battling this out till the very end.
Mr. Yurash, you are one of the youngest ever parliamentarian of Ukraine. There is an image that has gone viral on social media, that is of you picking up a gun. Tell us what made a parliamentarian like you pick up a gun, who is essentially a lawmaker. Do you really believe that a lawmaker should have really picked up the gun? What made you really pick up that gun?
This is the battle for everybody right now. Ukraine is attacked from all the sides in all different ways. We have vacuum bombs being thrown at Ukrainian cities. We have aerial bombardment. We have tanks. We have Grad missile systems shooting at our soldiers, civilians, cities. And the point is, this is a battle for everyone, in which everyone matters and should be involved. So the point, there's no difference right now, parliamentarian or just regular citizen. Everybody is part of this battle. And for example, in Kyiv, all that are staying are picking up weapons to try and find a way to resist Russian invasion. And the point is that there's no difference in status right now. Everybody is joining in and fighting this out till the very end.
Since you're a parliamentarian, Mr. Yurash, let me ask you this question. There is this news report that does the round every 24 hours. That is about your president. Whether your president is actually in Ukraine, because Russia seems to be suggesting that your president has left the country and he's perhaps addressing the people of Ukraine sitting in Poland. Is there any truth attached to it?
He's sitting basically less than a kilometer away from where I try to work and prepare those defenses in Kyiv. I mean, he is staying here. He is sticking with it. Not just him, the prime minister, the leadership of the country is all in Kyiv because, again, this is our capital. And to leave it is, again, something we cannot allow for. And he made very clear that he has the wherewithal to stand up to whatever happens in Kyiv and to stick with it till the very end. Because, again, we aren't giving up our capital. We are fighting for it no matter what. From the president to the youngest ever MP, such as myself, leadership of the country is staying here and fighting for everything that we hold dear.
Can I ask you this question, because you are currently in Kyiv? You are currently in Kyiv. The image that is right now on our screens also is you picking up that gun. Can you tell our viewers across the world, what is the current situation in Kyiv? What is your assessment? How close are the Russians right now?
Russians have a huge column stationed in the north of the town, but they want to first destroy our supply lines around Kyiv. So they aren't able to. We're fighting them back every single day. And right now I'm picking up different supplies and some military equipment to travel to the western part of the outskirts to provide the support there, humanitarian military, for our resistance to be ever stronger there. So the point is, again, we are not letting our capital be sieged with everything we have in every single way. So the point is, Kyiv is getting ready for battle. Kyiv is getting ready for the siege, and Kyiv is getting ready to repulse the Russian city of millions. Will not be just easily succumb to the Russian menace.
Do you believe, in your assessment of the situation right now, that the situation would only worsen in the next 24 to 48 hours in and around Kyiv? What is your assessment like?
Well, that's why I'm going to those outskirts to see the situation there. But as far as the future of our situation in Kyiv, that depends on the Kremlin and what they decide to do, whether they continue this madness or they are going to restrain themselves or allow at least the humanitarian relief, which we supposedly agreed on in the negotiations we had in Belarus. But the point is, again, it depends on the Kremlin, what they decide to do.
I want to ask you this question. Because we, as a news network, we were very close to the Belarus border when reports essentially came in that there is a possibility that Belarus could join the Russian army. What is the latest situation? Has Belarus actually joined the Russian army? Do you think some of the offensives that are being carried out, is in a joint operation of Russia and Belarus?
The fact of the matter is, from the Belarusian border with Ukraine, we had Russian troops coming into Ukraine. So the point is, Belarus has already chosen its sides in every single way. So the Belarusian army, it seems right now that they are unwilling to join this battle, but we'll see what happens, because again, the situation is extremely fluid, too fluid to be sure about the future of this battle. But again, Ukraine is fighting for everything it has. No matter what Russians throw at us, we shall resist, we shall fight on, we shall battle to the end.
One last question before I let you go, Mr. Yurash. That is, what is it that you would like to tell the whole world today? A lot of people are here right now in Ukraine trying to send across images of the kind of destruction. In fact, we, as one of the largest Indian news network, we have the largest reporters on the ground sending back images, not just to India, but to the whole world of what's really happening. So I want to take this opportunity to ask you this question about what is it that you would like to tell the world, because many are saying that you are caught in the crossfire. You are hedging your bets a little too much on the West, while the West is firing it from the shoulders of innocent Ukrainians. What is it that you would like to say?
This is battle for our existence. We don't really care whether we have this, that, and the other. We will fight on because, again, this is our nation we're trying to protect. We hope the conscience of the world will remind the world of its role in this battle, and will give the world the strength and willingness to actually help the side who's defending their freedom and their future from Russian imperialism and Russian colonialism. The fact of the matter is that, again, the world is waking up step by step, and we hope the world will do the right thing after exhausting other options. Nothing is enough, nothing is plentiful, all is welcome. So every bit of support you send is welcome, is needed. Every prayer that you send is relevant to us. Again, we are a God-fearing nation, so for us, every single support in every single way is very much needed and welcome. So thank you, world, but again, so much more is needed to defeat the second biggest army in the world.
Well, so much more is needed. That's what the parliamentarian, the youngest parliamentarian of Ukraine, has to say to Republic Media Network. Thank you, Mr. Yurash, for joining us on this broadcast.
Up next, viewers, we're getting you some more breaking images and breaking inputs that we're getting from Ukraine as far as the Russian aggression on the ground is concerned. Now we see in this video that Russian troops are shelling from the grads located in the middle of a densely populated village now. You can see in those visuals that there are villages that are now being targeted. There are blocks of residential areas that are being now targeted, civilians that are now being targeted very clearly, even as publicly Russia maintains that they are not trying to target civilians, that they're not trying to target residential areas or residents of Ukraine. Now we see very clearly that Russia is in fact targeting residential areas as well. Joining me on the broadcast is Group Captain Augustine Vinod. In fact, sir, if I could come to you, we have seen how publicly Russia maintains that they're not targeting civilian areas, but the pictures speak otherwise.
Absolutely true. I mean, it is just a propaganda warfare by Russia, and every army does it. I mean, it's not only Russia, everyone does it, because if you've seen some propaganda warfare from Ukraine side, it was also there. I was just listening to the previous speaker, and he said every bit of help is welcome, and where West is trying to help Ukraine. But I mean, let's be honest. Will Russia go back to status quo without any pound of flesh? That is the question I want to ask. And if that is, what is that pound of flesh that Russia wants, and how much is Ukraine willing to give? If they sit down and talk, so much of bloodbath, bloodshed is not required. If Ukraine thinks that Russia will go back to status quo, fall back on the line, leave Crimea and go, it's not going to happen. So somewhere they have to draw a line and say, okay, that's a no further. And this is what we are willing to give. And this is, Russia comes on the table and says, okay, that's okay with me. And let's stop the bloodshed, because otherwise the entire country will be razed to the ground. West is just going to sit down and watch. West is not going to send even a single soldier. That is very, very clear from the desperation of Zelensky's speech. If you remember, last evening he was totally cut up on NATO. I also thought that he in his mind, he thought, why did I bite this bullet of NATO unnecessarily? So it is even his life which is on the line. So all this put together, ma'am, I think this is the time they have to come on the table, because I don't think Russia is intending to run over the complete Ukraine. That doesn't seem to be the aim. But the aim is certainly going to be Zelensky needs to be out. That certainly looks like the aim, because that is what denazification means. And as you can see it, who's on the receiving end? Whole villages are on the receiving end. A lot of soldiers have died. Run away. Now the human lives, more and more civilian lives are going to be lost. Is India or any other responsible nations willing to stand by and watch? That's my question, because since day one, I have been on the sides of Ukrainian people and Russian soldiers. I mean, lives are lives for us. No life should be lost on a piece of land. I have never been in Fauji myself, but I don't advocate that you can't solve anything on the table, sitting across and talking.
Well, yes, absolutely, Group Captain Augustine Vinod. I want to thank you for joining us on that broadcast as we really keep a track of what's really happening on the ground, and Russia clearly now targeting residential areas, even as they publicly maintain that they are not doing so.
Floor where I'm walking right now, I'm showing you the kind of destruction that is taking place. I'm told that this is rough. What you see on the other side is an extension of the building. Take a look at the extension of the building. The ground floor has been completely damaged. There was a floor above that was damaged. And on the other side, what you see is a multi-storied building. Not very sure if there were any occupants, but it looks like that building was under construction, and of course that has been completely damaged right now. We'll try and also go across to the other place to try and show you the extent of the damage that has taken place, and it is just massive. Just take a look at this. This is the room that has basically collapsed with the impact of the missile that was dropped by the Sukhoi. This is the extent of damage that has actually taken place. On the other side, you're also seeing my colleague Mridul, who's also been reporting. Take a look at the extent of damage that has actually taken place.
Well, viewers, Donetsk is one of the regions that has been clearly noticed a lot of sporadic bombing as well, and Republic is the largest team of reporters on the ground. Let's take a look at this report by my colleague Patrick Lancaster from Donetsk, and let's see what's really happening in the Donetsk region.
I'm Patrick Lancaster, and this is a special report for Republic Media Network. And right behind me, you can see a hole here in this underground bunker. This is a former Ukrainian military position on the front line of what was the Ukraine war front line for the last 8 years. But DPR forces and Russian forces have captured this position and area that we're in the southern part of the Donetsk People's Republic and Russian-controlled territory, and we're here in this military position right near this village that was Granatne, is the name of the village, which was not long ago taken control of by DPR and Russian forces. And we can see the position here. Some military bags and boxes. So we're going to continue to show you everything that's going on here on the ground in these newly captured and controlled territories. And we'll show you what the people are living and how the people are living.
Residential apartments up in flames, plumes of thick smoke billowing out, and completely charred houses, triggering a massive firefighting operations. These visuals from a village in Chernihiv have sent ripples across the world. The widespread devastation of the village comes after a Russian military plane was allegedly shot down. And several houses were burned down when the plane crashed into this residential area. As Russia's raging offensive against Ukraine continues, it is the civilians who are bearing the brunt of this war. Agency report for Republic TV.
Up next, viewers, we're getting you some more very important breaking updates with respect to the Russian foreign minister, in fact, who is all set to attend a meeting of diplomacy forum on March the 11th and 13th, where the Russian foreign minister will attend the forum, which has world leaders, scholars, media and experts that are also invited. Now, we're also being told that there is no confirmation from the Ukrainian side, where Turkey had planned a meet between Russia and Ukraine. This comes hours after, remember viewers, where we had seen the Turkish intervention in this entire talks that are also taking place between Ukraine and Russia, where we are also hearing reports of where Turkish officials had also reached out to Vladimir Putin, and there was a phone call conversation also that took place, and this really adds to the fact that Turkey also trying to play a mediator between Ukraine and Russia, where the Turkey now has confirmed that the foreign minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, will be attending a meeting of diplomacy forum on March 11th and 13th, where perhaps the issue will extensively discussed about the Russian escalation on the ground that is taking place in Ukraine, and also what this will happen in the backdrop of the very crucial peace talks that are all set to also take place between Ukraine and the Russian delegation. And we had seen how earlier as well the second round of peace talks had just led to a humanitarian corridor that was being agreed to, but apart from that there was no real agreement that both the sides of Russia and Ukraine came to. And after Israel, now we see a Turkish intervention in this entire Ukrainian crisis. We will be bringing you all the updates. Let's take a look at this one minute report first.
Amid the devastating situation in Ukraine caused by constant attacks by the Russian forces, watch how the refugees arrived in Donetsk with bare necessities from the city of Mariupol through a humanitarian corridor. The corridor was set up during a temporary ceasefire agreed between Russian and Ukrainian authorities last evening. And with the collapse of ceasefire and the resumption of shelling, many others are still left stranded behind. Agency report for Republic TV.
Up next, viewers, we're getting you another breaking development as far as the Ukrainian crisis is concerned. Now, another video that shows that Russian artillery near Mykolaiv area, in fact, had been seized. And we have seen several such videos that had come to light from both the sides, from Ukraine and from Russia. And the latest now being a video that shows that Russian artillery has been destroyed near Mykolaiv. In fact, that is the area which has the coast to the Black Sea, that has an opening to the Black Sea, a very important geographical location. In fact, remember viewers, this was also the place on the coast of which we had seen Russian artillery, Russian ships, warships rather, who were also making their way towards this particular area of Mykolaiv. And now we see the Russian troops, the Russian convoy and artillery that has now been destroyed by the Ukrainian troops on the ground. And we see these are the images that really tell us about the stiff resistance that the Russian troops have been facing on the ground, where Russian convoys have been blown to pieces, Russian artillery that has been blown to pieces, as you can see in the visuals that are on your screens right now from Mykolaiv. And this is a coastal area where we had seen the Russian warships had been making their way towards Mykolaiv, and also a very strategically important location that both the troops had been trying to fight for. And now we see a Russian artillery, Russian convoy that has been destroyed in this particular area of Mykolaiv.
Protests against Russian occupation broke out in the port city of Kherson, Ukraine's only big city to have been captured by Russia in the war so far. People can be seen marching through the city center, waving flags and singing Ukrainian national anthem and shouting patriotic slogans like Russians go home and Kherson is Ukraine. Kherson, a key port city on the Black Sea and the Dnieper River, fell to Russian troops earlier this week. Protests notwithstanding, the Russian Defense Ministry shared a footage on Saturday which it said showed a captured Ukrainian military base. The base is near the Radensk village in Kherson region. Russia's control of the Black Sea could be a big setback for Ukraine as it would cut off the country from any possible maritime assistance from other nations. Agency report for Republic TV.
I'm now here for a short break, viewers. Coming up on the other side, Ukraine claims Vinnytsia airport was bombed by Russians. Zelensky claims 8 missiles hit the airport. And also bringing you all the updates of how Zelensky openly warns the West now and says that West is trying to kill Ukrainians slowly.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 not-for-profit private university for 9 years, with top 10 ranked institutions in management, engineering, biotech, law, masscom, telecom, hospitality, fashion and more. Yet another top ranking for Amity University.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. Just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians. The moment there was some sort of reports that were coming in of explosions near the Kharkiv area. As you can see right now, this area has been completely blocked and people are leaving the city. Now what you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. From a very distance, we can now see smoke billowing out. Alas, that's the Oblonov area of Kyiv. There is a Ukrainian army soldier who basically is telling them the defensive positions that they need to take, and then they would be creating a war zone.
Team Republic is at the border of Belarus and Poland, and this is the place where few kilometers across this border the talks will be happening today.
There's around 18 flights will be carried out of which 2 to 3 are the Indian Air Force flight that would be evacuating the Indian strength.
अगर आप अभी के हालात पर नजर डालें तो अभी जो बसेस मैं दिखाना चाहूंगा, रोड पर जो गाड़ियां चल रही हैं, ये वो तस्वीरें हैं जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ मदद के लिए आगे बढ़ रही है। तो यूक्रेन के वासी मदद के लिए आगे आ रहे हैं। लोग सड़कों पर इसलिए उतरे हुए हैं कि वो मदद करें।
I'm Patrick Lancaster with a special report for Republic Media Network. And right now we are in the city of Makevka, basically a suburb of Donetsk. And right behind me you can see the result of a shelling attack that took place last night, where this gas line took a direct hit, a fire ensued.
When the war is happening, it's just not the war but the war messaging that is quite important. Russia is claiming that it is damaging and affecting Ukraine, while Ukraine is retaliating, giving befitting replies. The war is going on all fronts, not only on ground but also in terms of giving a message to the nations across the globe.
You're looking at a perfect business area mixed with some residential buildings.
News that broke today, powered by Canara Bank.
And let's take a quick check of the headlines here at 8:30 p.m. Ukraine claims Vinnytsia airport was bombed by Russians. Zelensky claims 8 missiles hit the airport. Zelensky openly warns the West now, says West is trying to kill Ukrainians slowly. Israel Prime Minister speaks to Zelensky hours after call with Putin. Is Israel attempting to mediate now? Russian President Vladimir Putin speaks to Turkish President Erdogan over the Ukraine war. Republic Media Network reports from Zhytomyr, the only global network reporting from the site of the Sukhoi dogfight. And from Poland to Lithuania, Republic covers every move of the United States and NATO in the Ukrainian war. Well, viewers, Republic is the only media network that has been at the ground on Ukraine. In fact, from Zhytomyr, we have multiple reporters on the ground, and let's take a look at one such ground report from Zhytomyr as well. In fact, Shaban Sen, who's been getting us all these ground reports, is live with us. Shaban, where are you right now? What is really happening around you? We see in the backdrop of these diplomatic talks with the intervention of Israel and Turkey as well. What is happening on the ground? We will get in touch with Shaban in just a bit, but we have seen, viewers, that there is a lot of rapid developments in the backdrop of all these diplomatic talks that are underway, the intervention of Israel, of Turkey as well, and now on the ground where we see sporadic bombing that is still continuing even in residential areas by the Russian troops. And Republic is the only channel that is on the ground with multiple reporters on the ground getting you all the real developments that are actually happening. And we have Shaban Sen back with us. Shaban, where are you right now? What is really happening? There are rapid developments that are happening when it comes to the dialogues that are supposed to happen. Zelensky also claiming that there might be a direct conversation with Vladimir Putin as well. What are you picking up on the ground, Shaban?
Well, in fact, Priyanka, we have come to a third location. So let me try and establish the place where we are. This is the Sotomay area, which is not very far from Kyiv. It's roughly about 50 to 60 miles from Kyiv. In fact, the information that we had, Priyanka, was that Sotomay over the last 48 hours have seen multiple aerial bombardment. And what you see around me is the result of that aerial bombardment that has taken place. In fact, if I can encapsulate for all our viewers, that starting from what happened in a school this morning when Republic Media Network, the only global news network to have reached Sotomay, we were told that the school was bombed around 8:30 in the morning. Minutes later, students were supposed to come in. So thankfully there weren't any casualties that took place as far as the school is concerned. Then we went to a second location not very far from where I'm broadcasting right now from. And in fact, Priyanka, that was basically a maternity hospital where infants were born, children were born, and just minutes later there was a bombing that took place in that area. It was an aerial bombardment that took place. And now where we have come to, Priyanka, this is the third location where we have reached. And what you see around me is large-scale destruction. Let me tell you that this is predominantly a village that has come under attack. A village that was not really empty. Not that people had evacuated. There were people who were staying. In fact, this location, it's not that we have found ourselves. This location, it was villagers who spotted us on the second location when they told us that we should come here. Our cameras should reach here. And they were the ones who brought us here, because they said that this is the place where women, children, they were staying when this was bombed, and that is resulting in casualties. In fact, the numbers, if you go by simply by what the locals have been saying, about 15 such injuries, 15 people have sustained injuries. They've been taken to the hospital. Now, we are not in no position to really verify the numbers in terms of casualties, but what we can at least show our viewers is look at the number of houses that were damaged in the area. At least I can tell you with my naked eyes that I can actually see at least about 7 to 8 households. 7 to 8 households in this particular area have been completely damaged. Let me take you around and show you the kind of destruction that has taken place, and you would understand there's a semblance of life here and completely uprooted right now because of the bombardment that took place. And what's important to point out here, Priyanka, is that why is it a little different than the other places? Because in the other places, you would have missile strikes taking place from a particular distance. But these are the areas where bombs were basically dropped from the air. And these were bombs that were dropped from the Sukhois. And today, just this morning around 6 o'clock, when the information that we received from the General Staff of the Armed Forces, we were told that Sukhois had taken off from Belarus. In fact, the Su-35C, Su-34, they had taken off from 3 airfields in Belarus, and they carried out attacks in 2 places. One was in Sotomay, where we are broadcasting right now from, and the other happens to be Kyiv. Let me also tell you that this is yet another attempt that has been made by the Russians to try and put pressure on the Ukrainian government so that they can surrender, because at the moment you see the kind of aerial bombardment that takes place, it results in large-scale destruction, and perhaps that is a weak point, a weak area as far as the Ukrainian armed forces are concerned. And that's the reason why over the last few days we have seen this entire clamor among the Ukrainian cabinet that there is a need that the NATO should immediately work on a no-fly zone. Once that no-fly zone happens, they believe that this is going to protect the Ukrainians. In fact, the Ukrainian president went on to say that if this actually continues, then Ukraine would be completely wiped out of the world map. That's what the president had to say. And the reason being is because what you see around is a result of the aerial bombardment that takes place in this area. In fact, we reached here around 9 o'clock Kyiv, 9 o'clock Ukrainian time, and we've gone to multiple locations. In fact, the mayor of Sotomay spoke to the first global network, that is us. And Sotomay's mayor essentially said that they've collected evidence to basically prove that these bombs that were dropped, they were dropped from a Russian aircraft. However, if you look at the air defense system, they've not really been able to intercept the aircraft movement, and that is the reason why you have the Russian fighter jets entering the airspace of Ukraine and managing to carry out this kind of destruction in most of the area. So we are not looking at one small area that was actually bombed. What you are looking at right now, Priyanka, is that kilometers after kilometers of houses, of livelihood being completely been demolished in these very areas. So this is exactly the ground reality right now as far as the 11th day of the war is concerned, where you're looking at while Kyiv has been completely encircled by the Russian troops, and of course they've amped up their entire arsenal to ensure that the damage that is basically caused is maximum. To the hilt, if I may say so, because that's exactly what we are looking. Every location that I go to, Priyanka, this is the kind of destruction that we are taking place. Thankfully, while the casualties haven't been that much, but it's not the number that really matters at this point in time. What matters is that these images that you are seeing right now on your screen, with no global news network really on the ground getting you these images, one would say that this destruction is no longer limited to the military base, and this is exactly what I've been saying right from day one that I've been reporting on the ground, that this entire attempt by the Russian military is to basically carry out their offensive not just from the ground but also from the aerial, from the air support. Let me try and go across to this area to also show you that how people were actually living when this aerial bombardment took place. Take a look at this. A damaged car, several such cars that have been damaged in this area. People who were living inside, they've lost their lives, and there is a clear reflection of people who were actually staying there when this bombardment actually took place. And this has happened not just in Sotomay but in various other places. Kyiv, in fact, the very first day that we were there, we actually woke up to the sounds of loud explosions. Those explosions were basically resulting from missile strikes that were taking place. But at that point in time, there wasn't much aerial support or the use of aerial power by the Russian Federation. But what is right now happening is that there is a change in the tactic that has been employed by the Russians. So they've tried every possible trick in their war book, and that is they've got Russian agents who are on the ground, and that is the reason why every place that you actually go to in Sotomay, in Ukraine right now, there are checkpoints to ensure that the Russian agents who actually managed to infiltrate and carry out a sniper fire in those areas, they're trying to checkmate them. But the fact of the matter is that this kind of destruction that is taking place is only because they have really amped up their entire approach at this stage, where they're targeting civilian areas. These are villages where we are right now, which has been, as you see, nothing really remains right now. They're broken buildings. They're images of kitchen which was basically being used by people minutes before this explosion took place. These are the craters that have been created because of the aerial bombardment that's actually taking place. So with every passing day, Priyanka, I must say, things are really changing very rapidly, and it's becoming very, very difficult for the Ukrainians to hold fort. When the Sotomay Mayor spoke to us, he said that it is time that the world really unites at this point in time to save Ukraine, because if this continues, even the president of Ukraine admits, if this continues, then perhaps Ukraine will be wiped out of the world map. That's the kind of statement that has been made, an appeal that has been made by the president at this point in time.
With us, we're also getting some more breaking updates. We are getting some more breaking updates when it comes to what's happening in Ukraine now. Diplomatically speaking, now the Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that the Russian military operation in Ukraine can be suspended only if Kyiv ceases military actions and fulfills Moscow's demand in a phone conversation with the Turkish counterpart that had taken place. Now we are being told that there was a phone conversation that took place, and now Vladimir Putin really saying that there will be no ceasefire, there will be no exiting of the Russian forces from Kyiv, from the entire of Ukraine as well. And as we get you that breaking updates, we have also gotten another exclusive visual that we're getting of the latest shot of a missile strike that took place in Vinnytsia, and we had seen how the airport had also been targeted by the Russian troops, and Republic, of course, is the first channel to show you the latest visual from Vinnytsia. Now we are seeing that the firefighters are on the ground and there is debris clearing exercises that are being carried out. And of course, this is a strike that had been carried out by the Russian troops, and the airport had also been destroyed. Shavan, if you can hear me, we have seen how the kind of sporadic bombing has been carried out by the Russian troops. Now the latest being that of a Vinnytsia airport that had also been targeted. Giuliani airport was also something that the Russian troops had tried to target as well. And this also comes in the backdrop where we are hearing that there was a telephonic conversation where Vladimir Putin has clearly said that they will not exit from Kyiv till the military operations from the Ukrainian side also ends.
Now, as far as Vinnytsia is concerned, this place that you're talking about, the airport that was bombed, that's a civilian airport that has been bombed. In fact, we were inside one of the police headquarters where our checking was taking place when this attack took place, and I did ask this question to one of the police officers to find out where exactly this place is. This place is not very far from where we are broadcasting right now from. It's about 100 kilometers from where we are. And we've seen, as we have crossed about at least two major areas of Ukraine, Rivne being one, and the other that we have actually reached to now in Sotomay, not very far from here. That's in an elevated area where the bombing has actually taken place. I'm not very sure whether that's an aerial bombing or it was a missile strike that has actually taken place, so we'll have to wait for some more information to come in. But as I was pointing out, Priyanka, is that constantly what you're looking at is that places which are very close or which have larger crowd or you have more people inhabiting, perhaps those are the places which are being targeted. Now, while the Russian president says that they are only going to suspend their operation only if Ukraine in a way surrenders. When they say that the Kyiv military operations will not be carried out, the Ukrainians are saying that there is no question of compromising with their freedom. The Ukrainians are saying that we are not willing to give up or surrender before the Russians at this point in time. They are also maintaining that they are going to continue the fight. All that they are saying is that we are willing to walk the path of peace. If you speak to any Ukrainian, they would say this is not a Ukrainian war. This is a war that has been unleashed by none other than Russia. Now, that's the position that the Ukrainians have taken. Now, what is it that the Russians are really demanding at this stage? While there are enough reports to suggest, if you go by the intelligence reports of the United States, then you would essentially look at that the idea is to basically restore to what happened back in 2014. Or pre-2014, when Ukraine had a president who was largely seen as someone who's pro-Russia. I'm told by our producers back in Mumbai that there's some breaking news coming in. Priyanka, why don't you take the breaking news and then perhaps we could elaborate on.
Well, yes, Shravan, stay on with us. We are getting some more breaking inputs as the first pictures of a Sweden missile that also arrives in Ukraine. Remember, viewers, we have been seeing how the rest of the world has been pledging support in the form of military assistance and the humanitarian efforts that they are pledging towards Ukraine against the Russian invasion and the aggression on the ground. And the first visuals of a Sweden missile that we are showing to our viewers that has already arrived in Ukraine as well. We have seen how the NATO task force has also been mobilized near Romania, how they were also making sure that the mobilization of the French troops and the other troops as well happens from Romania towards Ukraine. And now we see how Sweden missiles have also arrived in Ukraine, where we see one such missiles with another army men. In fact, we can see this is the missile of a Sweden that has also pledged several of the military assistance, several of the military support that has been given to Ukraine. And this is the first images of the Sweden missile that has come to light there in Ukraine as well. This also comes in the backdrop how the rest of the Western world as well as the NATO forces has in fact pledged military support to Ukraine as well. And that is the movement that we have seen in the bordering areas of Ukraine in Romania as well. Shravan, if I could come to you now about what we were discussing and also the kind of support that we have seen on the ground, Shravan. The rest of the world stepping up, pledging support, and that's exactly what we see happening on the ground as well. What are you picking up with those terms? Because now we see there was NATO force movement and the mobilization near Romania, and now the Sweden missile that has also been sent to Ukraine. So basically saying that help is really on its way, even as the diplomatic talks continue of what's really going to happen between Ukraine and Russia, Shravan.
I would like to describe this moment right now, Priyanka, as a cat and mouse game. The reason being that on the one hand, you've seen the West, many nations coming together and saying that we need to protect Ukraine. We need to defend the territorial sovereignty of Ukraine and saying that what Russia is doing is a flagrant violation of the international law. That's what the position has been taken by many countries put together. In fact, one of the only few countries which have actually gone in for a complete overhaul as far as their defense policy is concerned is Germany, because they were earlier of the opinion that no weapons or arms and ammunition should be given to any other country. But they had reversed their age-old tradition and decided to actually hand over some military equipment to Ukraine. The Ukraine foreign minister had responded by saying that he thanked the German the government, but at the same time said that it was too late and too little. And what we are seeing right now, even before the invasion actually took place, is that several countries pledging that there would be military equipment that would be given to Ukraine. But one of the bigger challenges that Ukraine faces right now is that in terms of their own aerial power, what is the power that they have with them? They do not have enough fighter jets. They do not have enough attack helicopters on the ground. So all that put together, they are still left in the lurch. So that is the reason why, while there have been pledges that have been made, on the ground what we really witness, Priyanka, is that you have the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian army fighting a battle all by themselves. And as Republic Media Network has been highlighting, and which I would say is exactly the position, that this is a war that is being fought from the shoulders of the Ukrainians by the West. The United States of America, today the Secretary of State says that there is no question of having a no-fly zone. The reason being that if that actually happens, then there is an indication that this is a full-fledged war that is taking place. Now, the Ukrainian president and the parliamentarians that we've also spoken to, almost everyone says that if there is no-fly zone, then perhaps what you're seeing right now where we are saying this is just going to continue, and perhaps it's even going to worsen in the days to come. The Ukrainians are time and again saying that there is a need that the world should unite, but should go beyond what they are talking about in terms of just simple military aid. And this military aid is going to take some time before it actually reaches. They've been asking for Stinger missiles, Javelin missiles. These are missiles that have been asked for by the Ukrainians for a very long time. But will it really arrive on the doorsteps of Ukraine very soon? Perhaps it's going to take a little bit more time, and till that time, what is going to happen is that Russians are going to continue pounding cities after city. You already have things worsening down south, and let me tell you that while we are projecting that the Ukrainians have been able to hold fort, the reality is that things are very different down south, especially if you take a look at what is happening in the naval port cities. That even if the Ukrainians say that they are in control, the fact of the matter is that the offensive from the Russian side has only increased, making it very, very difficult for them to continue holding fort for a very long time. Perhaps what the Ukrainians have been successful so far is to prevent the siege of Kyiv, and that remains the one-point focus of the Russian Federation, because what they want is a complete siege of Kyiv. They want to topple the government. They want to see that there is a pro-Moscow and not a pro-West government here in Ukraine. Because today what has happened is that Zelensky, in the eyes of Vladimir Putin, is nothing but someone who's very close to the West. And Russia sees this as an aggressive move because they believe that the NATO is going to come to their borders. That's the pretext of this entire war that you're really looking at. But the fact of the matter is that it doesn't appear that anyone is going to blink any soon. And the Ukrainians, if there is one thing that should be given to them as credit, is that they certainly have been able to put up a very, very, very brave fight. And that we are certainly seeing if you are on the road. If you are on the go, you're traveling from one city to the other, one thing is very, very clear. And that is that the Ukrainians have been very successful in terms of stopping or the pushback that one needs to see. But as I've been saying right from day one, that if Russia basically amps up their aerial power, the dynamic of this war is going to change. You're going to see a different picture. And the reason why I'm reporting from a place like this is to actually show the world that things are really changing very fast here. It is actually putting a lot more pressure on the Russians at this point, on the Ukrainians at this point in time. And if this continues, if this kind of aerial bombing actually continues, then it wouldn't be too far when you are stretching the Ukrainians way beyond than what they can perhaps handle.
Oh yes, Shravan, and you know, as you very rightly pointed out, that it might be too little too late as well when it comes to the kind of pledges, the kind of help that NATO and the rest of the world has really been pledging. But now we see an acceleration in the talks as well. Now that Israel has also been trying to play the mediator, the Turkey in fact trying to play the mediator as well, and we see the kind of images that are still going on in Ukraine, where the Russian aggression is still on the rise, sporadic bombing that is taking place of residential areas as well. Shravan, I want to thank you for joining us for the moment. We will get you some other reports from Ukraine as well. Time now here for a short break, viewers. Coming up on the other side, Zelensky openly warns the West now, says the West is trying to kill Ukrainians slowly. And also bringing you all the updates of how the Russian President Vladimir Putin speaks to Turkish President Erdogan over the Ukrainian war. Stay tuned.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 not-for-profit private university for 9 years, with top 10 ranked institutions in management, engineering, biotech, law, masscom, telecom, hospitality, fashion and more. Yet another top ranking for Amity University.
Right behind me, you see the results of a shelling attack that took place last night. The shell came down and it impacted directly here and sent shrapnel across this area. This is Ukraine attacking their civilian areas here in Donetsk, as Ukraine's been doing for the last 8 years.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low-flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. Just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians. The fear that this war might just escalate. On the one hand, the Ukrainian army perhaps has been able to safeguard Kyiv, but the question in everyone's mind has been for how long. A lot of Ukrainians who are now fearing that the capital city, Kyiv, would perhaps witness what the city of Kharkiv has.
हमारी टीम पहुंच गई है वहां पर जहां पर हथियारों की ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है। पहले यहां पर हथियारों को कैसे पकड़ा जाता है, कैसे हैंडल किया जाता है, उस तरह की ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है। वो तस्वीर मैं आपको सीधी बता रहा हूं। इस समय आप देख सकते हैं कैसे बंदूक का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है, कैसे इसको आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। हर एक चीज यहां पर समझाई जा रही है, बताई जा रही है, और उसके बाद कैसे टारगेट सेट किया जाता है। और यहाँ पर बहुत सारे लोग हैं, कुछ नौजवान हैं, कुछ सिविलियंस हैं, उनको यहाँ पर ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है और इस बात के लिए खास ख्याल रखा जा रहा है कि पूरा का पूरा माहौल जो है वैसा ही यहाँ पर दिया गया है। पूरी की पूरी ट्रेनिंग उसी बात की दी जा रही है कि कैसे युद्ध के क्षेत्र में ये लड़ सकते हैं। ये देखिए आप, कंधे पर बस्ता है, हाथों में बंदूक है और सामने निशाना है, और अचूक निशाना होना चाहिए। उसके लिए लेजर टेक्निक का इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है।
is happening, it's just not the war, but the war messaging that is quite important. Russia is claiming that it is damaging and affecting Ukraine, while Ukraine is retaliating, giving befitting replies. The war is going on all fronts, not only on ground, but also in terms of giving a message to the nations across the globe.
You're looking at a perfect business area mixed with some residential buildings. What you see straight down here is also some of the most important hospitals and medical centers. What we were told by the Ukrainian authorities is that their analysis shows that this is basically In fact, we are being told after this bombing that took place in the school, there was another bombing that took place, and that bombing was actually in a hospital.
पहली मर्तबा युद्ध के क्षेत्र में सुखोई का इस्तेमाल करके ऐसी तबाही हुई है। आप चारों तरफ जहां भी आपकी नजर जाएगी वहां आपको सिर्फ और सिर्फ तबाही नजर आएगी।
And let's take a quick check of the headlines here at 9 p.m. Ukraine claims Vinnytsia airport was bombed by the Russians. Zelensky claims 8 missiles had hit the airport. Zelensky openly warns the West now, says the West is trying to kill Ukrainians slowly. Israel Prime Minister speaks to Zelensky hours after a call with Putin. Is Israel attempting to mediate now? Russian President Vladimir Putin speaks to Turkish President Erdogan over the Ukrainian war. Republic Media Network reports from Zhytomyr, the only global network reporting from the site of the Sukhoi dogfight. And from Poland to Lithuania, Republic covers every move of the United States and the NATO in the Ukrainian war.
Republic Media Network has now reached the spot where just about 2 days ago, where an aerial bombing took place inside a school. What you see right now is the debris all around. This was an attack that took place on 2nd of March. A short while back, the Ukrainian army has now confirmed that this was an aerial bombing that was carried out by a Sukhoi. In fact, the Sukhoi took off from the airfield in Belarus. Take a look at right from the very place where the attack took place. This is a school. Take a look at this. Right now, what you see is the remains of this particular school. There's hardly anything left in terms of the casualty. We're being told that several of those who have been injured, they have been taken to a hospital nearby. This was around 8:30 in the morning when the attack took place. Viewers, we are right now in this place called Sotomay, which is not very far from Kyiv. But for the first time, a global news network has basically reached the very place where the attack took place around 8:30 in the morning about 2 days ago. This was not the only place that was bombed by the Russians. In fact, we are being told that there are about two other places not very far from where we are standing right now and where the bombing actually took place. And that left large-scale destruction. What you see right now, take a look at this. Rooms which have been completely damaged, window panes that have been broken. It only looks like the school was still operating and when this attack took place. And this kind of devastation can be seen almost in every place that you actually go to in the district of Sotomay. Take a look at this. This is where children keep their clothes. Take a look at the large-scale destruction that has taken place. And what we can confirm is that this is perhaps the first place which was attacked by the Russian army when the Sukhoi took off from Belarus. This is the school. It's heartbreaking scenes that you can see right now. Whatever is remaining here of a classroom. This is the scene of a classroom right now after the bombing took place. Sotomay district actually happens to be a place which is not very far away. It is certainly not very far away from Kyiv. It is roughly about 50 to 60 miles. And remember, this is the very place which is becoming the place, the area of conflict right now in this area. Sotomay district also happens to be the very place where another axis of the Russian army has been opened. In fact, the latest intelligence reports suggest that the Russian troop actually is moving towards from this very place. It's difficult to move around, but just to give you a sense of the kind of destruction that has taken place in and around the school. This is the ground floor where I'm walking right now. I'm showing you the kind of destruction that has taken place. I'm told that this is rough. What you see on the other side is an extension of the building. Take a look at the extension of the building. The ground floor has been completely damaged. There was a floor above that was damaged. And on the other side, what you see is a multi-storied building. Not very sure if there were any occupants, but it looks like that building was under construction. And of course, that has been completely damaged right now. We'll try and also go across to the other place to try and show you the extent of the damage that has taken place. And it is just massive. Just take a look at this. This is the room that has basically collapsed. With the impact of the missile that was dropped by the Sukhoi, this is the extent of damage that has actually taken place. On the other side, you're also seeing my colleague Mridul, who's also been reporting. But take a look at this. Take a look at the extent of damage that has actually taken place. And this is only just one part of the school that was damaged here. In fact, we're being told after this bombing that took place in the school, there was another bombing that took place, and that bombing was actually in a hospital. That was a maternity ward that was attacked. So over the last 13 days, when we have document the kind of damage that has been done by the Russian troops in Ukraine, what becomes abundantly clear that these are not military bases. These are not military bases that have just been attacked. Take a look at this very place where I'm reporting from. This is just the other side of the camera and show you. This is one extension of the building. So this connects to the newer building that has been created. That's the multi-storied building. And on the other side, take a look at that. That's a cathedral that has come under attack. So just yesterday, we were told by the Ukrainian army that right now what is happening is that even religious places in Ukraine have come under attack. Take a look at this side of the building that has been attacked. So it is not just
We're getting in some breaking news right now. Russia has said that they are willing to suspend the military operation. There are conditions that have been attached to it. One, that Kyiv, they should stop the military attack, or rather the kind of operations that have been carried out from the Ukrainian side. Remember, that's the position, in fact, Russia had also taken in the past. Just in the last 24 hours, President Zelensky has also indicated that they are willing to have direct negotiations with Russia. But as far as the Ukrainians are concerned, Ukrainians are constantly maintaining that they are not going to compromise with their basic demand, that they are not going to give up an inch of their land. They are not willing to compromise as far as the freedom of Ukraine is concerned. If at all the talks are going to take place, the talks are going to be within the ambit of what they call their territorial sovereignty cannot be, touched upon. And that's the position that Ukraine has taken. Now, as we report from various places in Ukraine which have come under massive attack. Remember, earlier in the day, we were the report that was played out just a short while ago, that was from a school in Sotomay. We are still in Sotomay, but viewers, in the last 8 to 9 hours, we've been to multiple locations in Sotomay itself. And let me tell you that we went to a school, then we came to a hospital, a maternity hospital that was attacked. And now we are standing in a village that has been completely destroyed. What you see around me are number of houses that were attacked by the Russian military. In fact, this is the result of an aerial bombardment. In fact, it does not just end there. For the first time, you're looking at large-scale destruction that has taken place in an area which is not very far from Kyiv, about 50 to 60 miles from where Kyiv is. This place has been completely demolished by the aerial bombardment that was carried out. In fact, Ukrainian army, Ukraine's General Staff of Armed Forces has already confirmed that there were Sukhois that carried out this aerial bombardment in the place where we are standing right now from. Sukhois that took off from 3 airfields in Belarus, and it is very, very significant because the Ukrainians are saying that if NATO does not go ahead with a no-fly zone, then perhaps this kind of destruction is going to take place in various other cities of Ukraine. President Zelensky has gone a step forward by saying that if this continues, then Ukraine will be wiped out of the world map. And this is going to be the condition in various other countries. If today Ukraine is wiped off, tomorrow it could be any other country, be it Poland, be it Hungary, be it Romania. We have seen what has really happened in Georgia. This is going to repeat. So these images tell you the reality of the war right now. With every passing day, the number of deaths is only increasing. While we do not know at this stage the number of casualties that have taken place from the place where we are broadcasting from, but the Ukraine army, the Ukraine armed forces, they are putting up a brave front. They are saying that the Russians have also been inflicted major losses. They're talking about over 10,000 Russian troops that have been killed in action. You have various aircrafts of Russia being gunned down. You've had their fighter jets, their helicopters that have been brought down. The numbers that have been pegged is roughly about 40 odd fighter jets. You're looking at attack helicopters that have been brought down. But that still remains one of the major weak areas as far as Ukraine is concerned. The air superiority that Russia has is way more than Ukraine. And that is exactly where the Ukrainians fear that if at all Russia amps up their offensive from the air, then perhaps they're not going to be in a position to hold fort for a very long time. Ukrainians have time and again put up Ukrainians have put up a brave front, at least on the ground. The ground offensive is something that we have been witnessing unfolding before our eyes. Is that the Ukrainians have been able to? There has been a pushback. But let me do something right now. Is that let's play out some of those reports, viewers. Right from day one, we've been saying that Russia says it's the military base that is being attacked, but the reality is very different. Take a look at this report that was filed by me and my team earlier in the day. This was from a school in Sotomay, and this school where children were supposed to go inside, minutes before children could actually go inside the school was bombed around 8:30 in the morning. Take a look at this report.
But we are talking about places, schools that have come under attack, hospitals that have come under attack, and also we're now being told that civilian buildings in this area have come under attack. Important to point out here is the fact that how things have been changing over the last 13 days. We have been constantly reporting from one place to the other. 3,000 kilometers have already been covered. More than 3,000 kilometers have already been covered by Republic TV. And what we have witnessed is large-scale destruction, scenes of despair in almost every place that we go to. Let me try and encapsulate for all our viewers. Right now, we are in this place called Sotomay. Now, if you're asking why this becomes very important, this becomes very important because this place is not very far from Kyiv. Roughly about 50 to 60 miles is what we are being told. And in fact, this is the new access right from Belarus that has been opened. In fact, In fact, the latest development or the latest confirmation that is coming from the Ukrainian army is the fact that Sukhois were used, a Su-35C, a Su-34, and a Su-26 that was basically used by the Russian army. These Sukhois took off from 3 airfields in Belarus and they carried out aerial bombing. A short while back also we have been told that in the Sotomay district also there was bombings that were carried out. So time and again what we are witnessing at this stage is that these very areas are being used to encircle Kyiv. Not very far. So on the northern side, you have the Russian army that has tried to encircle Kyiv. And from the southern side, you've already seen what has really happened. And from the eastern side, so they're moving from Kharkiv towards Kyiv. So clearly what they're trying to do is that put pressure on the Ukrainian government right now. Their motive appears to be that as you put more pressure on the Ukrainian side, perhaps you would perhaps what you would witness is the fact that they are going to only succumb under pressure. Let me also bring in my colleague Andrei here. If Andrei can come in, and I'll try and get him here and see what more can he also provide us. Andrei, if you can join us on the broadcast right now. So here you have Andrei who is joining us. And we've reached this spot. You've spoken to some of the locals. What is it that you're picking up? What is it that they are saying? What really happened 2 days ago? Is this the only place which came under attack?
No,
Let's walk in.
It's not the only place, but it's one of the places that was damaged the most in this city. Locals said that it was really terrible, and as at school, the bombing was 8:30 when the lessons are start. So if it will be a little bit late, the kids will be harmed too.
So there were no children who were basically harmed here. This was just before the school actually began. So the casualties that have been reported is mainly from the hospital, which is not very far from this very place where the attack took place,
Hospital
right?
and residential area.
So how many residential areas have come under attack in Sotomay?
It's like one street where 10 houses were bombed and a few people were killed and a few people were wounded.
Okay.
Shaman, keep talking, please. Shaman, keep talking, please.
So, in fact, let's do something right now, Andre. Try and explain to our viewers which area are we standing right now, where in Zotomir are we standing, and why this holds a significance, because I see that apart from the school, let's just turn the camera on the other side and talk. So not only the school, this area has residential buildings. So I'll show my viewers right now that take a look at this entire 360-degree view that I'll give you. And here what you see right now on your screens, these are residential buildings, right, Andre? These are residential buildings nearby?
Yeah, that's it. And this school was one of the best school of this city, and it was you see how it was destroyed, and you can see that building that also had been damaged.
That's the church, if I'm not wrong?
Yeah, that's definitely the church.
Okay, that's the church. So in fact, the latest information that we do have at our disposal is that not just schools and colleges, universities that have been attacked by the Russian troops, but what you're looking at is that civilian areas, large areas, large residential buildings that have come under attack.
Well, in fact, that was the report that we filed earlier in the day from a school which is roughly about 200 meters from where we are reporting. As my colleague Andre was pointing out, that about 10 residential houses that came under attack. Let me just step aside a little bit and show you the size of the crater. So you're looking at not one, but multiple bombs that were actually dropped in one particular area. What you see right now is the very place, the very crater that has been created, what you see right now. And this is a scene that we have witnessed in almost every place that we have gone, that it's just not one place that has one bomb that has been dropped, multiple bombs that have been dropped in one area. So you would find a similar sort of a crater just a little aside. Let me also go to the other side and show you. Look at this house, which perhaps was on an elevated area, and what you see right now is the charred remains of a house. And as I was pointing out, in Sotomay itself, you are looking at 3 different locations. These are 3 different locations where these attacks have taken place. About 30 meters from where we are standing is another location, the maternity hospital, where the attack took place. That was the second place that we had gone to. And now we have come to a village which has been destroyed, completely destroyed because of the aerial bombardment that took place. So, as I've been pointing out through the day, that with every city that we are crossing, we are only looking at this kind of destruction. In fact, late last night, we had reached a location, a region rather, in Ukraine called Rivne. Rivne is a location which is not very far from the Belarus border. Late last night, we saw a massive army convoy moving around in the city of Rivne, from where we had sent in our last dispatch. And we also saw that was the area that the Ukrainians were a little worried about, because that's the axis that they suspect that the Russian troops may open up a little bit more actively, and things are going to be really different. And Belarus, remember, and I would like to at this point also bring in my colleague Shivani, because Shivani has been tracking the negotiations that were supposed to take place between Russia and Ukraine. And Belarus holds a lot of significance when it comes to the place of these talks. Shivani, just to juxtapose, one, the supposed talks that were that were to take place, and second, the role of Belarus itself. From the places that we have been reporting, there is strong evidence, or there is a strong indication, that Belarus has already chosen their side. They appear to be on the Russian side. They've allowed the Russians to use their soil to carry out the offensive. In fact, the Ukrainians say that they are expecting more armed provocations to take place from the Belarus side.
Shravan, we have been reporting from over 6 countries now. You are there in Ukraine. We've been traveling from Hungary to Poland to Slovakia and now to Lithuania Republic, the only channel to be present at the place where America is now taking on the grounds with negotiations and talks with the NATO nations. And here in this particular city of Vilnius in Lithuania, the temperatures have already dipped down to -6 while we are reporting. It's even hard to stand and talk, but we get all ground reports for our viewers here out who are seeing how courageously you have been reporting from Ukraine, from all the war zone areas and the attack places. While you were talking about the Belarus role, Belarus has been the launch pad, Shravan, for Russian troops to land and then proceed inside Ukraine. And Belarus has been playing quite a crucial role, because first 2 rounds of talks happened in Belarus. First round happened on 28th, and then 3 days later, on 3rd of March, again, we saw talks happening in Belarus. The first round of talks happened for 5 hours, but there wasn't a major breakthrough. Second round of talks happened for 2.5 hours with an agreement of a temporary ceasefire that could not be worked upon yesterday. But today also there were some efforts to evacuate people from Mariupol. And now, in between, we've seen a number of statements coming in from President Zelensky, who's been appealing and calling out the NATO nations, and even calling the summit in Brussels that happened two days back a failed and a weak, confused summit. So now once again he's calling the NATO nations. On the other hand, we are seeing how the American Secretary of State Antony Blinken has been traveling from different locations, from Poland to Lithuania to Moldova, and he'll also be going to Latvia and Estonia. So his 4-day visit is very important, and he is now calling upon nations to unite and be with Ukraine. He's also sending across the monetary aid and how the NATO nations have been gearing up to help Ukraine in this time of crisis. But we know that there have been sanctions, there have been statements, but no concrete action on ground has been seen of the troops, if we talk about. And considering the no-fly zone refusal also, President Zelensky has reacted, and now he says that intervention is required from NATO, from America, and for that matter, these visits of Antony Blinken are very important, Shravan. And if we talk about the third round of talks, there are indications now that the third round of talks might take place on Monday, that is tomorrow, and there have been open statements from President Zelensky, who says that he's ready to talk to Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, directly. He wants to call upon for negotiation. While we also heard how the Russian side also says that they're ready for negotiations and dialogues, but what they don't want is NATO allying with Ukraine, and that has been the point of contention since the very beginning, Shravan. We remember since last 1 month when these tensions have been aggravating, there have been establishments and statements from NATO side. They have been claiming that they are with Ukraine, but when the war actually broke out 11 days back, since then President Zelensky did not receive any concrete action by the troops inside Ukraine. So now we have to wait for the third round of talks, whether President Zelensky is going to tone down after much devastation in these cities of Kyiv, Kharkiv, and from where you have been reporting from. So we have to wait and watch whether these talks will yield any results now, or whether the NATO nations will unite and do something concrete on ground for Ukraine, or there'll be just statements or sermons. So Shravan, let's look at this report that you earlier filed from the maternity hospital building that was bombed by Russia.
Today, joining us is the mayor of Sotomay, the man who's controlling the situation right now, who's been constantly monitoring. We are with him. In fact, I also have my colleague Andre, who's going to take us through the questions that I'm asking. We'll ask the mayor. He's going to respond to all our questions. This is undoubtedly the first global channel to get you. What's the reality? Where exactly, what exactly is happening on the ground? Is it the military bases that are being attacked, or it's way beyond that? Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to Republic Media Network. Today, I would say thousands and thousands of Indians who are watching you. I want to ask you this question. What exactly is the situation in your area? Because this is the very place where maximum attacks have taken place. A lot of destruction is taking place. Tell us what's really happening.
Яка зараз ситуація тут, в Житомирі, тому що нещодавно мали місце бомбардування, тому могли б розказати, що тут конкретно відбувається, яка зараз ситуація?
Перш за все хочу сказати, що те, що прийшов індійський народ і на чолі з Ганді за визволення і отримав свободу від колоніального іга, те саме проходить зараз Україна.
He is saying that he is very grateful for Indian people, that they come here, and for their resistance for British, and how they liberated themselves. Now this is what's happening here in Ukraine.
He's also referring to the father of our nation, M.K. Gandhi. Let me take this question. Today, the kind of resistance that you're talking, you're invoking the kind of resistance that Indians had shown fighting the Britishers. Do you believe it's the same sort of a resistance that the Ukrainians are showing against the Russian invasion?
Те, що індійці показували в боротьбі з британцями, це те саме, що зараз українці показують в боротьбі з русскими?
Ні, це не те саме, бо Індія змогла пройти цей шлях більш-менш мирним шляхом. Росія нам такого шансу не залишила.
Like he says that Indians managed to do this way in more peaceful way, and Russia didn't left our chance to do this like in this way, in peaceful way.
As I understand, you are saying that the Ukrainians wanted to basically do this in a peaceful manner, but they are now left with no option but to take up arms. I want to ask this question now. In your area, in the very place that we are standing today, a lot of places, hospitals, schools, civilian areas, they've all come under attack. Aerial bombardment has taken place. Can you tell us a little bit more about the kind of destruction that has been caused by the Russians in your area?
Розкажіть детальніше про бомбардування лікарень, шкіл і в цьому ключі.
От саме частина цієї бомби декілька днів назад, яка впала на мирний квартал, і загинули люди. 3 людей загинуло, 6 було поранено, і тільки до ранку 12 людей живих, слава Богу, підняли з-під завалів.
Like this is the part of the bomb that has been dropped on a civilian residential area, and 3 people were killed and 6 were wounded, and only 12 people were rescued by the morning from the destructed houses.
Позавчора, от 300 метрів від цього саме міста, в нас повністю була зруйнована школа. І, слава Богу, 3 людей цивільних, які знаходилися в школі, вони були в укритті, вони не постраждали. Але ви можете піти подивитися, тут буквально 300 метрів, самий центр міста, школа повністю бомбою знешкоджена.
3 days ago, the school near the center was destroyed by Russian bombs, and thanks to God that 3 civilians that were there in that time were in the shelter, and they are saved. And we can go and see it.
І от там лежать вже залишки от цієї бомби, яка знищила нашу школу. Так.
Yeah, that's the parts of bomb that destroyed the school.
So, viewers, if you can see, these are parts of the bomb that has been taken out. They have kept it here. The mayor has kept it in his office. They're controlling the situation. So you're saying this was the bomb that was dropped at the school or the hospital?
Це від школи чи від госпіталю?
Це від школи. Ця саме фактично був нанесений удар по житловому кварталу. В лікарні 6 поверхів повністю були вибиті всі вікна, і пологове відділення поруч також було вибите всі вікна. І саме в цей час в час вибуху в пологовому будинку народилося 2 дитини.
While the bombardment, when the hospital were bombed by Russians, it like bombed all the windows, and at that moment in the regional prenatal center where the kids were born, in that moment were born 3 kids, and the hospital were bombed 2 kids.
So you are saying infants who were just born, they were killed in this attack?
No. They saved, and
they were saved or they were killed?
They saved.
They were
Thanks
saved.
God, they saved.
Okay, but what about the casualties that may have taken place in hospital? I want a confirmation of what really is the condition, what really happened in the hospital. Tell us a little bit more on that.
Жертви в самому госпіталі?
В госпіталі жертв не було. Всі 6 поверхів, вікна, двері повилітали, але всі люди вчасно спустилися в бомбосховище.
All the people went to shelter. Thanks God, they all saved now. But the building of hospital itself had been destroyed a little bit.
As I understand, in the last 24 hours also, there have been certain reports that we were seeing that areas in Sotomay came under attack. Can you tell us a little bit more about where these attacks have taken place, and why is it that Sotomay is now becoming, apart from Kyiv, Sotomay is becoming the main area where Russians are trying to attack?
Останні 24 години були бомбардування по всьому Житомиру. Ну, це відповідно до їхніх звітів, до їхніх джерел. І питання, чому Житомир зараз стає окремо від Києва такою гарячою точкою. Чому так стається?
Тому що в Житомирі багато військових частин, і в Житомирі є славетна 95-та бригада, але те, що вони по звітам дали, що ніби там щось знаходилося, військові знаходилися в ці зруйновані школи. Слава Богу, я хочу подякувати журналістам за те, що ви працюєте в Житомирі цілодобово. Бо саме через 15 хвилин міжнародні журналісти були на місці вибуху, і вони бачили, що ні одної там людини, ні військового, нічого там не було.
He was to say thank you to journalists that they have come to a military base where the legendary 95 division are, and when it was bombed, they came in 15 minutes and like filmed that nobody was hurted and there's no casualties.
So this happened just about in the last 24 hours.
Останні 24 години.
Це 36 годин назад.
36 hours. Last 36
hours. So also, what is it that you all know with regards to the way we were given to understand that the Russians are basically trying to enter Sotomay? Is that correct, that the Russians are trying to put more pressure or come encircle Sotomay? Is that what's happening?
Згідно з їхніми звітами, росіяни зараз намагаються війти в Житомир і оточити Житомир. Це правда?
Ну, в мене нема доступу до планів Генерального штабу.
He is not able to know this information.
Okay. So can I just ask you one last question? What is the role that the world should play? Because many believe that this is a war between Russia and the West. It is the innocent Ukrainians who have been caught in the crossfire. Your president is asking for a no-fly zone. The West hasn't really responded, and NATO does not want to get into it. Do you believe that somewhere down the line that Ukrainians have been left alone right now to fight this battle? What is it that you would like to tell the world from Republic Media Network to the entire world? What is it that Ukrainians want? What is it the Ukrainians would like to tell the entire world?
Багато хто каже, що зараз Україна залишається сама, що НАТО не реагує на запит України про закриття неба. Як ви думаєте, яку роль зараз світ повинен відіграти в цій війні? Тому що багато хто думає, що це війна що це війна між Росією і Заходом. І що ви хотіли зараз сказати Republic Media прямо зараз про те, що ви думаєте? Яку роль повинен зіграти світ в цій війні? Що зробити?
Перш за все, я хочу всіх запевнити, якщо думає хтось, що він може відсидітися, це не вдасться. Путін піде далі.
Firstly, he says that if someone thinks that he can just stay and wait for the peace, he's wrong, because Putin is not going to stop and he will go next and next.
Okay. So what should be done right now? Because do you believe that you have enough support? Because right now the war is being only fought between the people of Ukraine and Russia with very little help that you're getting. So I want to ask, what is it that you want to tell the world, even the West? Because what we are witnessing is that you are caught in the crossfire, because the fight that Russia is doing is with the West. You have just becoming a reason, a pawn in their hands. How would you essentially tell the world that what is it that you would need at this hour?
Що ми сказати, що ми зараз потребуємо від світу, тому що ми ніби стаємо жертвою їхнього протистояння, просто війна відбувається в нас і причиною є ми. Як ви думаєте, що ми можемо в них попросити, щоб було зроблено? Як ви думаєте?
Я зрозумів. Перш за все, нам потрібно закрити небо. Це перше. І друге, нам навіть не їжа зараз потрібна, не допомога в продуктах харчування. Нам потрібна зброя, бо без їжі людина може протриматися 5-7 днів. Без зброї у нас шансів протриматися набагато менше.
The first one is we need to close the sky, and the second one that we don't need so much food. We need the real thing that we need is weapon, because a person can live without food for 5 days, but if we don't have the weapon, we can defend ourselves.
Well, I would like to thank the mayor for speaking to Republic Media Network, and I must say that our endeavor as a journalist is to show the world the truth, the reality, that what Ukraine is facing, it's not just the military bases that we have seen, it's civilians, people who are dying, innocent Ukrainians are being killed in this war. Perhaps it's important that everyone today wakes up and sees what's really happening in Ukraine. It started with Russian President Vladimir Putin saying that this was a military operation. But today, one of the few global channels which have taken the risk to be on the ground to try and send you the real images, the real image being that today children, elderly people, women, they're all being killed. Hospitals have not been spared. We are given to understand schools haven't been spared, and even as we speak, just a short while back, about 100 kilometers from where we are standing right now, there was yet another explosion. Reporting right from the epicenter in Sotomay, the mayor speaking to Republic Media Network. We'll keep getting you more updates, more ground reports, and the real face of what's really happening as far as this war between Ukraine and Russia is concerned. With my colleague Mridul Sharma and video journalist Surendra Singh Rawat, this is Shavan Sen reporting for Republic Media Network.
Taking a short break now, viewers. Coming up on the other side, Ukraine claims Vinnytsia airport was bombed by Russians. Zelensky claims 8 missiles had hit the airport. And also bringing you all the updates of the Russian President Vladimir Putin speaks to Turkish President Erdogan over the Ukrainian war. Stay tuned.
अगर आप अभी के हालात पर नजर डालें तो अभी जो बसेस मैं दिखाना चाहूंगा, रोड पर जो गाड़ियां चल रही हैं, ये वो तस्वीरें हैं जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ मदद के लिए आगे बढ़ रही है। तो यूक्रेन के वासी मदद के लिए आगे आ रहे हैं। लोग सड़कों पर इसलिए उतरे हुए हैं कि वो मदद करें।
I'm Patrick Lancaster with a special report for Republic Media Network. And right now we are in the city of Makevka, basically a suburb of Donetsk. And right behind me you can see the result of a shelling attack that took place last night, where this gas line took a direct hit, a fire ensued.
The war is happening, it's just not the war, but the war messaging that is quite important. Russia is claiming that it is damaging and affecting Ukraine, while Ukraine is retaliating, giving befitting replies. The war is going on all fronts, not only on ground, but also in terms of giving a message to the nations across the globe.
We're looking at a perfect business area mixed with some residential buildings. What you see straight down here is also some of the most important hospitals and medical centers. What we were told by the Ukrainian authorities is that their analysis shows that this has basically come eastwards. So the projectile missile is basically coming eastward, hits this particular building on the 16th and the 17th floor, leading to large-scale destruction.
Right behind me, you see the results of a shelling attack that took place last night. The shell came down and it impacted directly here and sent shrapnel across this area. This is Ukraine attacking their civilian areas here in Donetsk, as Ukraine's been doing for the last 8 years.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low-flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. Just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians.
The fear that this war might just escalate. On the one hand, the Ukrainian army perhaps has been able to safeguard Kyiv, but the question in everyone's mind has been for how long.
fact, we're being told after this bombing that took place in the school, there was another bombing that took place, and that bombing was actually in a hospital.
पहली मर्तबा युद्ध के क्षेत्र में सुखोई का इस्तेमाल करके ऐसी तबाही हुई है। आप चारों तरफ जहां भी आपकी नजर जाएगी वहां आपको सिर्फ और सिर्फ तबाही नजर आएगी।
Well, up next, viewers, we're also breaking some more visuals. Now we see how the Ukrainian army over there in the video, we can see how there are Ukrainian troops there in Ukraine, where another shelling in fact has taken place, a crater that can be seen in the visuals right now. And we see how the Ukrainian army in fact is playing a national anthem after an airstrike that took place in several pockets of Ukraine, in several areas where we see the airstrike and the kind of damage that it has left behind. And in the middle of that, we see how the Ukrainian army trying to keep their spirits high and playing the national anthem, trying to keep the spirits high of the Ukrainian troops there on the ground. You can see with the trumpets and the musical instruments and all the Ukrainian flags as well that are with the troops on their person, and near a crate where an airstrike has also taken place. You can see heartbreaking images, really, viewers, coming in from Ukraine, where the entire debris and the damaged buildings of the residential areas. And in the middle of that, we see the Ukrainian troops playing the national anthem. Let's first listen in and then we'll bring you more updates. How sporadic airstrikes and bombings that have also taken place by the Russian troops across Ukraine, and one such heartbreaking image really comes to light from Ukraine, where an airstrike had taken place, and hours after that we see around a crater the Ukrainian army along with the Ukrainian flags playing the national anthem, trying to keep the spirits of the troops high even amid the aggressive bombing that is being taken place by the Russian troops on the ground. And in these visuals very clearly, the Ukrainian troops circling around a crate, in fact where the airstrike has taken place, circling there and with the musical instruments, with trumpets, all of them really playing the national anthem, raising the spirits of the troops.
Take a look at this very place where I'm reporting from. This is just to the other side of the camera and show you, this is one extension of the building. So this connects to the newer building that has been created. That's the multi-storied building. And on the other side, take a look at that. That's a cathedral that has come under attack. So just yesterday, we were told by the Ukrainian army that right now what is happening is that even religious places in Ukraine have come under attack. Take a look at this side of the building that has been attacked. So it is not just, but we are talking about places, schools that have come under attack, hospitals that have come under attack, and also we're now being told that civilian buildings in this area have come under attack. Important to point out here is the fact that how things have been changing over the last 13 days.
Time now here for a short break, viewers. Coming up on the other side, Russian President Vladimir Putin speaks to Turkish President Erdogan over the Ukrainian war. And also bringing you all the updates of how the Ukrainian claims Vinnytsia airport was bombed by the Russians, and Zelensky claims that 8 missiles had hit the airport.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 not-for-profit private university for 9 years, with top 10 ranked institutions in management, engineering, biotech, law, masscom, telecom, hospitality, fashion and more. Yet another top ranking for Amity University.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low-flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. That's just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians. The moment there was some sort of reports that were coming in of explosions near the Kharkiv area. As you can see right now, this area has been completely blocked and people are leaving the city. Now what you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. From a very distance, we can now see smoke billowing out. Alas, that's the Oblonov area of Kyiv. There is a Ukrainian army soldier who basically is telling them the defensive positions that they need to take, and then they would be creating a war zone.
Team Republic is at the border of Belarus and Poland, and this is the place where few kilometers across this border the talks will be happening today.
There's around 18 flights which will be carried out of which 2 to 3 are the Indian Air Force flight that will be evacuating the demonstrants.
अगर आप अभी के हालात पर नजर डालें तो अभी जो बसेस मैं दिखाना चाहूंगा, रोड पर जो गाड़ियां चल रही हैं, ये वो तस्वीरें हैं जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ मदद के लिए आगे बढ़ रही है। तो यूक्रेन के वासी मदद के लिए आगे आ रहे हैं। लोग सड़कों पर इसलिए उतरे हुए हैं कि वो मदद करें।
I'm Patrick Lancaster with a special report for Republic Media Network. And right now we are in the city of Makevka, basically a suburb of Donetsk. And right behind me you can see the result of a shelling attack that took place last night.
Well, viewers, as the Russian offensive comes into day 11, we have seen sporadic bombing and airstrikes that are being taking place by the Russian troops on the ground. Republic has the largest group of reporters on the ground. Let's take a look at one such report by Patrick there in Donetsk.
I'm Patrick Lancaster, and this is a special report for Republic Media Network. And right behind me, you can see a hole here in this underground bunker. This is a former Ukrainian military position on the front line of what was the Ukraine war front line for the last 8 years. But DPR forces and Russian forces have captured this position and area that we're in the southern part of the Donetsk People's Republic and Russian-controlled territory. And we're here in this military position right near this village that was Granatne, is the name of the village, which was not long ago taken control of by DPR and Russian forces. And we can see the position here. Some military bags in boxes. So we're going to continue to show you everything that's going on here on the ground in these newly captured and controlled territories. And we'll show you what the people are living and how the people are living.
Time now here for a short break, viewers. Zelensky openly warns the West now, says that the West is trying to kill Ukrainians slowly. And also bringing you all the updates of how the Israel Prime Minister speaks to Zelensky hours after a call with Putin. Up next, viewers, we're getting you some more breaking updates. In fact, where we see now a plane has been shot down right above the residential complex of Belarus. In fact, we have seen the kind of airstrikes that had been carried out and the kind of stiff resistance that the Russian troops had also been facing with respect to the surface-to-air missiles that had been launched by the Ukrainian troops as well. We had seen yesterday as well that there were several choppers of the Russian troops that had also been shot down, and now we have another latest shot of in Kharkov, in fact, where a plane has been shot down right above the residential complex of Belarus, and we have seen how the kind of civilians in fact have been affected because of this sporadic bombing that has taken place across Ukraine by the Russian troops. And now another such visual really tells us the kind of stiff resistance that the Russian troops have been facing from the Ukrainians there in Ukraine, especially now in Kharkov, where in fact a residential complex right above that there is a plane that has been shot down. These kind of sporadic bombings also tell us the kind of strategic locations where Russian troops are also targeting. In and around Kyiv as well, we have seen how the Russian troops had carried out several attacks, and the kind of show of strength of videos that the Russians and the Ukrainians in fact had been releasing to show how much the presence of both the troops is there on the ground as well. And now a latest visual from Kharkov. Time now here for a short break, viewers. Coming up on the other side, Zelensky openly warns the West now, says that the West is trying to kill Ukrainians slowly.
और यहाँ पर बहुत सारे लोग हैं, कुछ नौजवान हैं, कुछ सिविलियंस हैं, उनको यहाँ पर ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है और इस बात के लिए खास ख्याल रखा जा रहा है कि पूरा का पूरा माहौल जो है वैसा ही यहाँ पर दिया गया है। पूरी की पूरी ट्रेनिंग उसी बात की दी जा रही है कि कैसे युद्ध के क्षेत्र में ये लड़ सकते हैं। ये देखिए आप, कंधे पर बस्ता है, हाथों में बंदूक है और सामने निशाना है, और अचूक निशाना होना चाहिए, उसके लिए लेजर टेक्निक का इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है।
War is happening, it's just not the war but the war messaging that is quite important. Russia is claiming that it is damaging and affecting Ukraine while Ukraine is retaliating, giving befitting replies. The war is going on all fronts, not only on ground but also in terms of giving a message to the nations across the globe.
We're looking at a perfect business area mixed with some residential buildings. What you see straight down here is also some of the most important hospitals and medical centers. What we were told by the Ukrainian authorities is that their analysis shows that this will basically come eastwards. So the projectile missile is basically coming eastward, hits this particular building on the 16th and the 17th floor, leading to large-scale destruction.
Right behind me, you see the results of a shelling attack that took place last night. The shell came down and it impacted directly here and sent shrapnel across this area. This is Ukraine attacking their civilian areas here in Donetsk, as Ukraine's been doing for the last 8 years.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. Just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians. The moment there was some
Ебать, видели?
We are the only Indian channel right now in Kyiv to get a sense of what's really happening at the epicenter of this conflict between Russia and Ukraine. We've landed in Kyiv and we would be traveling across Ukraine to get our viewers the real sense of this conflict just a day after that aggressive speech that was made by Russian President Vladimir Putin about recognizing two enclaves, Donetsk and Luhansk, as independent. The Ukrainians have made it abundantly clear that when it comes to their territorial integrity, their sovereignty, that won't be compromised. Now that's the sentiment that we've picked up in the last 1 hour or so that we've been here in Kyiv, and what we can promise is what we are essentially trying to do, unlike many other media outlets, even from the West, because that's very important, Niranjan, because when we speak to some of the Ukrainians, they are saying that look here, the real picture is not really out, because there is an attempt that is being made to only give one side of the picture. You look at what the Russian media has essentially done, you look at what the Western media has done, they are saying that the true picture isn't really out. The true picture, they are saying that right now, Ukrainians cannot be seen in the same light or from the same prism that they were, as Andrea was pointing out, 5 to 8 years back. It's very, very different. They are willing to take up that fight. They are willing to respond to the aggression of the Russians. We are the only Indian channel which is closer to the Russian border from the Ukrainian side. In fact, we are right now at a highway which takes straight all the way to Kharkiv. We left around 1 o'clock this morning from Kyiv, and now we have reached the highway which is going to take us to Kharkiv, which is 500 kilometers away from Kyiv. Now the idea here is to get our viewers the real picture of the battle which has just intensified. Now we are looking at one place on the Russian side that's known as Belgorod. Now there are new satellite images which only goes on to show that there is a new hospital that has been set up by the Russians, which only indicates that there is a constant build-up from the Russian side. Now the images that you're seeing right now is the movement of vehicles, trucks. In fact, a short while ago, we also saw a vehicle of the Ukrainian army, which is basically going on its way to the troop. Now just take a look at this. Let me also bring in my colleague from Republic Bharat. Look at this. This is one of the Ukrainian army armored vehicle that is making a move. That's the armored vehicle that you are seeing coming all the way back from the Russian border, the Ukrainian-Russian border. We are going to take our viewers in a short while from now, a little less than an hour from now, we are going to take all our viewers to Hoptivka. Now that's the place which is closer to Belgorod, which will give you a sense of what's really happening in the border areas of Ukraine and Russia. What's the build-up like? Republic Media Network has now reached the Russian border. We are at Hoptivka, which is closer to the Belgorod area of Russia at this point in time. In fact, just a short while ago, we've seen a long line of trucks in this very area, which has just now been cleared. Now, the reason why we are a little away from the border checkpost is that the moment we reached there to film, we were stopped by the Ukrainian army not to film at the border checkpost. So we are giving you these images, which is roughly about 500 meters from the border post of Russia. Take this route down. Let's just try and show you. Now this route down that you see is where the border post is. Now straight down this road, 500 meters, a little more than 500 meters, I would say, is where you could perhaps, now you could see there's one army vehicle. These army vehicles that are basically moving around the highway. As you go down this road is the city of Kharkiv. Now Kharkiv is the only sort of populous districts, as you can see. We also take a closer look. मृदुल, अगर कुछ टाइम पहले हमने और भी कुछ काफ़ी सारे मूवमेंट जो देखे थे यहाँ पे, ट्रक्स की जो बात कर रहे थे आप, उसके बारे में
बिल्कुल। देखिए शवन, एक तस्वीर मैं और दर्शकों को दिखाना चाहूँगा। जैसा बता रहे हैं हम, पुलिस के जवान देखे यहाँ पर बॉर्डर एरिया और यहाँ पर लगातार चेकिंग की जा रही है। वो तस्वीर भी हम दिखाने की कोशिश करेंगे। जो भी और फिर चेकिंग की जाती है, तो ये बताने के लिए काफ़ी है कि कितनी सिक्योरिटी। और अभी एक तस्वीर आप देखिए, ये बड़े बड़े टैंक्स यहाँ से गुजरने वाले हैं और जो आर्मी के जवान हैं वो यहाँ से गुजरेंगे। ये देखिए ये तस्वीर। और मैं अपने सहयोगी से करूँगा कि वो अपनी जान का ख्याल भी रखें, क्योंकि यहाँ बहुत अहम है। हमको ज़्यादा रिपोर्टिंग करने की इजाज़त नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी हम हर तस्वीर दर्शकों तक पहुँचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। और ये तस्वीर बताने के लिए काफ़ी है कि कितना महत्वपूर्ण है ये एरिया।
What you are seeing right now is the movement of the mechanized command unit of the Ukraine army, and essentially what we have seen is that the security in this particular area has also been increased. What you see on the other side is the Ukrainian police, which have basically been looking into all the areas, all the checkpoints here. So as you go towards the Russian side, as you go towards the border, you would essentially find two checkpoints. Now, two checkpoints that are essential as you go right down. Now, it's important to point out here is that as the situation is essentially building up, we'll try and also make a move from here. As you go straight down is the Russian-controlled Luhansk area. So we are right now on the street. We have managed to just get away from the place to be on a safer side to report for all our viewers right now, because we believe in getting you all the images. We believe in getting right at the center where the story is. And we have covered Luhansk. We plan to get to another area called Donetsk, because right now, what's very important is to get the sense of what's really happening on the ground.
30 किलोमीटर दूर, 30 किलोमीटर, मात्र 30 किलोमीटर की दूरी है शवन, जहां पर वो जगह मौजूद है। यानी ये चैलेंजिंग भी था, और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि पूरा का पूरा गांव खाली करा दिया, डर का माहौल।
वही इलाका है, that was the same very area just earlier in the day, Arnab. There were controlled explosions that were taking place. We did barely manage to speak to the Ukrainian army, try and understand what they were saying. They were saying the firing is still continuing. That is the reason why that entire area, I don't know if our producers can also put out those images while we were recording our walkthroughs. There you could actually get a sense that there is an entire checkpost. So all the Ukrainians who essentially want to go to the Luhansk area, they had to go through that checkpoint. Now that area has been completely deserted. It's completely deserted. There are Soviet-era buildings. Those buildings have been completely evacuated. It gives us a sense that earlier in the day, people were still there. And suddenly, when the explosions actually took place, they had to leave from there. That's why there were remnants of people staying there, and they had to leave immediately. So they are saying that this area still remains quite critical. Republic Media Network is now reporting from battleground Ukraine. We were at Kharkiv where explosions were heard. As you can see, there are some fumes that are billowing out right now. This is from these factories, and this entire route that, as you can see right now, is completely chock-a-block. This is going towards Kyiv. The moment there was some sort of reports that were coming in of explosions near the Kharkiv area. As you can see right now, this area has been completely blocked, and people are leaving the city of Kharkiv, because remember, Kharkiv is closer to the Russian border, and we have seen the offensives on the part of the Russian troop. In fact, when we were leaving from Kharkiv, there were tanks on the street. In fact, there have been, there's fear that is looming large right now. And let me also bring in my colleague right now.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, ये तस्वीरें देखिए, हम बता रहे हैं, एक्सप्लोजिव की आवाज आ रही है और एक एक करके गाड़ियां निकलती जा रही हैं। सड़कों पर इस समय मौजूद हैं और जिसको जहां तक जगह मिल रही है वहां पर निकल रहे हैं। शबन, हम वहां तक देखिए लाइन देख रहे हैं, वहां तक किलोमीटर भर की लाइन है और सड़कों पर इस समय हम मौजूद हैं। धमाके की आवाज आ रही है, धुआं उठ रहा है और लोग शहर को छोड़ रहे हैं। वाकई ये तस्वीर डराने की है, लेकिन बार बार यूक्रेन की तरफ से कहा जा रहा है कि मार्शल लॉ है, आप भागे ना।
अब से जानकारी ये भी देना चाहेंगे कि मार्शल लॉ की बात हो रही है, और यूक्रेन के जो प्रेसिडेंट है वो कह रहे हैं कि जितने भी लोग हैं उनके देशवासियों को कह रहे हैं कि पैनिक ना हो, डरे नहीं, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं जिस तरह से यूक्रेन इस वक्त यूएस के साथ भी बातें करे। और ये देखिए
कैसे लोग भरे हुए हैं। बस में देखिए आप, जगह नहीं है, बैठने की जगह नहीं है। शवन, लोग खड़े हुए हैं और जगह उनके पास है ही नहीं, खड़े हुए हैं, कोई बैठा हुआ है, कोई खड़ा हुआ है। ये तस्वीर वाकई डराने वाली है।
देखिए, इस वक्त लोग यहाँ पे रहना नहीं चाहते हैं, और एक तरह से प्रशासन ने भी ये कहा है कि जितने हो सके सेफ एरिया।
देखिए, लोग यहाँ से जाना चाहते हैं और हम एक एक तस्वीर यहाँ पर दर्शकों को दिखा रहे हैं।
ये कहना बहुत जरूरी है। तनाव के माहौल में भी लोग यहाँ पे थम्स अप दिखाने की कोशिश करें। इससे एक चीज जाहिर हो जाता है कि लोग ये कहना चाहे कि इस बार रूस की ये जो एक तरफा बात हो रही, रूस ने जो ऑफेंसिव निकाला उसकी मुंहतोड़ जवाब देने की बात करते हैं यूक्रेनियन कहते हैं कि इस बार चुप नहीं बैठेंगे। ये जो आप देख रहे हैं सिर्फ एक तरह से प्रिकॉशन लेने की, हमें वापस
गाड़ी में हम बैठ रहे हैं। और ये जो, क्योंकि अब फिर से कहा गया है कि आगे निकलिए, लेकिन मैं एक आखिरी बार दिखाना चाहूंगा। ये लाइन देखिए, जहां तक नजर जाएगी वहां तक आपको गाड़ियां नजर आएंगी। धमाके हो रहे हैं, धुआं हमारे पीछे उठ रहा है और हम भी अब गाड़ी में बैठेंगे और यहाँ से निकलने की कोशिश करेंगे। आगे हम पहुंचेंगे, फिर वहां पर आपको एक एक तस्वीर लगातार दिखाते रहेंगे।
On our way from Kharkiv all the way to Kyiv, we've stopped at one such location which is closer to Poltava, where we heard loud explosions. 2 such explosions that took place in the vicinity. As you can see, several such houses have been evacuated. This house a short while back we were given to understand this entire area has now been completely evacuated after the explosions that have taken place. That's the highway. That's the highway, as you can see. That's the highway from a short while back. As we were reporting, ambulances have just moved from here. In fact, we are given to understand what the military has also been sending in vehicles to basically stock up the gases. In fact, this particular area from where we are reporting is not very far off from Kharkiv, the very place from where the explosion started earlier in the day. At least multiple explosions in the outskirts of Kharkiv, and not just Kharkiv. There are several cities, as you can see. One such place where we are reporting from, this is empty, but the explosions have basically taken place in an open area is what the locals are explaining to us. They've said because the moment we reached here, we heard two loud explosions. We stopped just to get a sense of what's happening. Where did the explosion take place? We were told that this is just behind where two explosions actually took place. In fact, in some of the locations where the reports are basically coming in, the Russian troops have moved in. Heavy tanks and armored vehicles have also been brought into Ukrainian territory. That's what we are being told by the locals. Some of the reports that have come in, and what we are seeing as we move along the highway, essentially what we are seeing is the fact that a lot of people are basically queuing up in these 24/7 facilities. They're trying to stock up their food, they're taking water, gas, and all of that they're stocking up right away. And such kind of, as you can see, this house that you see right now, it looks like there was a small factory just behind. We're not being allowed to go on the other side. This very area from where people have been living, they have basically moved out. This is a small makeshift factory which was there, which is now being completely emptied. We've been not allowed to go beyond this particular point as there have been deployments that have essentially been made. Similar kind of situation across various parts of Ukraine at this point in time. At least 3 cities that we have already covered while we were leaving from Kharkiv, and the images are pretty much the same. Almost every city people are leaving, and when we are asking them where exactly are they headed, they're not very sure at this point in time, because remember, there has been no such direct messaging that has really come in from the Ukrainian authorities, who are basically gripping with the current situation. When there were certain announcement that was basically made by the Russian side, there would be military operations that would take place in 2 breakaway regions in Luhansk and Donetsk, where certainly those 2 areas are cut off from the Ukrainian side. So it's very difficult to perhaps get you the images from inside Donetsk. But what we have done is that we are trying to get you a sense of not just one place, but across various other places, various other cities. We'll keep traveling, we'll keep getting you all the live images and images from across cities of Ukraine. We have now arrived at the 6th city that we have crossed, starting from Kharkiv, where we've at least come across 2 locations where there were explosions that took place. These are largely areas where you have residents staying. So right now, this is no longer restricted to the Russia-Ukraine border. This has gone way beyond that. At least in some of the locations, the last location from where I sent my dispatch, there were 2 explosions that actually took place, which was in a nearby area. And in fact, the reports that we have got the latest report that we have got from the office of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Ukrainian Army, there are 3 points that they have made. One big point is Sast, the area from where we reported last evening. There are 50 Russian occupiers who were taken down. There are 6 fighter jets that have been brought down in those areas, is what we are being told. And apart from that, some of the areas, especially the border areas, where we are being told that there is an attempt that has been made. Now, this is a memorial. Let's just go to this is the memorial of one of the memorial of the last struggle that Ukraine has essentially seen. Now, this is sort of veterans area where we have basically reached wreath being laid here, people basically remembering their fallen soldiers here. This is the list of all the fallen soldiers of the Ukrainian army that you can see the city from where we are reporting right now. So, people here, locals are all out trying to support the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army trying to send across a strong message, at least that's what we have picked up from the Ministry of Defense, that yes, at least if you look at the border area, starting from the northern side where the reports came in from Belarus, there was an attempt that was made by the Russian troops to enter, and then of course in the eastern side too, the breakaway regions where there have been massive gunfighting that has basically taken place, and the reports suggesting 50 Russian occupiers have already been killed by the Ukrainian army. 6 fighter jets have been brought down, rather 5 fighter jets and 1 helicopter has been brought down by the Ukrainian army. So we are reporting on the ground. We are constantly on the move, Niranjan, not reporting from any hotel. We are reporting from each and every location, starting from Kharkiv. The attempt is very simple. The attempt is to try and get to the latest reports. As you can see, this is a bank. A bank has now been closed down, and this is the report that we were getting, is that there appears to be people right now are collecting money so that there is no crunch, so that there is there's enough money that they get, because banks are going to shut down. And take a look at this bank that you are seeing has been shut down. ATMs, long lines of ATM people from across, starting from where we started this morning, we saw a lot of people basically lining up. So clearly there is this fear that is looming large as to what exactly is going to happen, because there is a lot of uncertainty here. That is the reason why, once again, let's go on to the road, give you a sense, because we are somewhere, Niranjan, if you've seen my last dispatch from the border checkpost where we were stopped by the Ukrainian police. When we were speaking to them, asking them what's the situation like, they're saying that, look here, the reports that we have got is that there is an attempt of the Russian army to enter into the Ukrainian territory. That's the attempt that has been made, and that is the reason why, as we are moving a little away from the Russian border, what you can basically see is a lot of people are leaving. Which way are they going? Not known. In a short while from now, as we stay, you perhaps will also get a glimpse of the ambulances that are basically plying on the roads right now, tanks that have been brought in.
अगर आप अभी के हालात पर नजर डालें तो अभी जो बसेस मैं दिखाना चाहूंगा, रोड पर जो गाड़ियां चल रही हैं, ये वो तस्वीरें हैं जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ मदद के लिए आगे बढ़ रही है। तो यूक्रेन के वासी मदद के लिए आगे आ रहे हैं। लोग सड़कों पर इसलिए उतरे हुए हैं कि वो मदद करें।
I'm Patrick Lancaster with a special report for Republic Media Network. And right now we are in the city of Makevka, basically a suburb of Donetsk. And right behind me you can see the result of a shelling attack that took place last night, where this gas line took a direct hit, a fire ensued.
The war is happening, it's just not the war but the war messaging that is quite important. Russia is claiming that it is damaging and affecting Ukraine, while Ukraine is retaliating, giving befitting replies. The war is going on all fronts, not only on ground but also in terms of giving a message to the nations across the globe.
We're looking at a perfect business area mixed with some residential buildings. What you see straight down here is also some of the most important hospitals and medical centers. What we were told by the Ukrainian authorities is that their analysis shows that this will basically come eastwards. So the projectile missile is basically coming eastward, hits this particular building on the 16th and the 17th floor, leading to large-scale destruction.
Right behind me, you see the results of a shelling attack that took place last night. The shell came down and it impacted directly here and sent shrapnel across this area. This is Ukraine attacking their civilian areas here in Donetsk, as Ukraine's been doing for the last 8 years.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. That's just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now. This is the place. Only global network, Republic Media Network, has now reached the very place where the missile was, the attack that took place. What you can see right now is the debris. This is the very place which came under complete attack. Just take a look at this. This is a complete residential area that I would like to show you. Look at the destruction, all down to dust. What you see is broken window panes. This is where a family was actually living here. Just take a look at this. This entire building has basically come under attack. The missile that was launched earlier in the day, around 4 o'clock this morning, when Republic Media Network woke up with a loud thud. This was barely a few meters away from where Republic Media Network was. In fact, now I'll just ask my video journalist Surendra Rawat to come to a safer distance. There's movement, glass shards, as you can see right now, strewn all over this entire place. Now this area right now, Niranjan, let me just tell you that this is barely few meters away from the airport area. As you can see right now, people are already living. They are leaving this very place. As you can see, we'll try and come a little closer to give you a look at it. Someone was actually still staying when this attack actually took place. Just take a look at. They're basically clothes that are still lying there, and curtains. As you can see, this only goes on to show that people were staying here when this attack took place. There are a few people who are still inside right now. So clearly, Niranjan, the attack or the battle is no longer limited to the border areas. It has now gone right inside Kyiv. As you can see, these shots that I'm trying to show you right now, Niranjan, is of what really happened a while back. This was around between 4 to 7 is when these attacks actually took place. Glass shards, there are about at least 3 to 4 floors that basically came under complete attack. As you can see, people are already out of the building. They are leaving from here. In fact, let me try and just go a little closer in just to give you a sense of what's actually happening. In fact, I'll just ask Surendra ji if you can just come a little inside. Let me just quickly show you. I can still smell the smoke right now. I can still smell the smoke right now. Just take a look at this. This is the house that basically came under complete attack. This is the house which has come under complete attack. Yeah, okay. And as you can see, this is completely under attack that came in a while back. And as you can see, people are all leaving from here. As you can see, I would just like to tell all our viewers right now that grim news coming in of the attacks that have basically taken place. Right now, we are the only global network that is reporting from a key residential area. As you can see, this particular building, which is roughly, I could say, about at least 10 floors that I can count right now.
14 floors. That's 14 floor building that has come under complete attack. A missile attack that took place earlier in the day. We'll try and also get in some sense because we've been asked to move around a little away from this place. So let me just go because you've seen the police as well as the Ukrainian army that is already here. People who are all standing here because this attack that took place. This attack that actually took place was around 4 o'clock. Between 4 to 5 is what we are being told. 4 to 5 when this attack came in. And what's important to point out is that this particular building doesn't look like that it was evacuated when the missile attack actually took place. Right now also, as you can see, people have actually gone back to their houses to try and bring whatever is left right now. Completely charred, as you see inside the building. It is completely charred. People, as I understand from talking to a few people here, is that there were some in some of the apartment, people were still sleeping. We're not very sure as far as casualties are concerned. No official are around with whom we could actually get in some details of the casualties that may have occurred because of this strike that took place earlier in the day. As I can tell you, since we weren't very far away, because we've also been at the center of Kyiv, it is important to point that out. We are the only network that is reporting from the very place where a missile attack took place. We're being told that there were people who were basically living on the front side of this particular building when the attack took place. And that's the reason why you perhaps can see what is the remains of that particular building. Very heart-wrenching images right now. If I can ask Surendra Rawatji to show a picture of a lady who's still trying to get hold of whatever is remaining. I must say that if there is a picture that describes the pitfalls, or rather the shortcomings of a war and what a war basically does, take a look at that image on the 4th floor. Rawatji, please try and show how Ukrainians are suffering because of that one decision that has been taken by the Russian president. The fact of the matter is that the collateral damage between the two nations happen to be the people who are now suffering. Look at what is really happening as to how people are out on the streets. They have lost their homes, and it's extremely painful, Niranjan, to see how a residential area has basically come under attack. So when the president of Russian Federation basically says that a military operation is taking place in the Donbas region, it is absolutely false. I would say it is absolutely false, because today Republic Media Network is reporting from right at the center of Kyiv where this attack took place. Questions should now be raised about when will the global world wake up to the misery of the people of Ukraine, because at the end of the day it is the people who are suffering. What you're looking at right now is the number of people who have suffered because of this mindless attack that has taken place. Today, once again, let me just tell our viewers, while we are reporting right from ground zero, getting you live images of the operation that is still being carried out. Some parts, we are told that some of the army is still inside. They are trying to clear off the area. The Ukrainian police is also inside right now, and they are trying to take a sense of what's really happened. We are not very sure the nature of the strike. While we are being told that this was a missile strike that took place around between 4 to 5 is what we are being told, but the nature of the strike is still not known. In terms of casualties, Mridul, you were saying 11 people.
Yes.
11 people have sustained injuries, severe injuries is what we are being told. Some of them have already been hospitalized is what we are being told after speaking to the Ukrainian police. But Niranjan, while I'm just quickly diverting a little bit away from this image to just show you so that people understand that this is not an isolated area. This is not an isolated area. Just a rough estimate, I may be completely wrong, but a rough estimate, over thousands of people must be living here, because look at the kind of structure. This entire structure where people basically are living, as you can see right now, they're completely all over.
This entire area is, look at this entire area. There is a playground here. So of course this is a residential area, a complete residential area. And now people are out on the streets. They're picking up their bags. They're leaving this place. And I once again, Niranjan, just take a look. Rawat ji, आप अगर थोड़ा दिखा सकते हैं चौथे मंजिले में जो लेडी हैं जो अपने सामान निकालने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं वो तस्वीरें देखिए. I want people, everyone across the globe to watch these images, these heart-wrenching images, and to really say whether what is really happening right now on the ground, is it really justified? Is it really justified to see how someone who's suffering to this extent, where they're trying to piece together whatever is remaining right now? And that's perhaps the message that global leaders should take a look at, or perhaps even understand the misery of people, because it looks like there is no end to this battle right now. While on the one hand, you've had Russia to come up with what many people here in Ukraine are seeing absolute excuses for just trying to enter Ukraine. Let me just quickly explain it for all our viewers right now. What's really happening? We have reached right at the ground zero. As you can see, no other global channel is at the spot where the shelling has actually taken place. This shelling is in Vilonsky area, and which is just close to Lobanovsky Avenue. Two places where the attack has taken place, the missile attack that has taken place. Right now, as you can see, smoke still billowing out, which only indicates that the attack must have taken place just a short while back. The residents with whom we managed to speak a short while back, they are telling us that this was roughly around 8 o'clock in the morning when we also heard this explosion. In fact, the other area where the shelling took place was a little barely about 20 meters from where we are standing right now. And in fact, the army has taken some defensive positions in the area, which only indicates that the situation still remains to be very, very critical. Important to point out is that for the last 24 to 48 hours, residential areas are being attacked. Mridul has an update. हाँ बताइए.
मैं पूछने गया था उनसे, मैंने कोशिश की बार-बार पूछने की क्या कोई घायल हुआ है, क्या किसी को आग लगी है. मैंने ये भी कोशिश की कि क्या हम थोड़ा सा अंदर जा सकते हैं तस्वीरें दिखाने की, तो उन लोगों ने मना किया है. तो हो सकता है कि अंदर शायद कोई हो या घायल हो, क्योंकि ये इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया है और आप देख सकते हैं कुछ गार्ड वगैरह मजदूर यहाँ पर हो सकता है.
जी हम लोग इस वक्त कोशिश यही करेंगे कि जो हमें पता है उसी के बारे में रिपोर्ट करें, क्योंकि ये जो एक मिक्स है, एक रेजिडेंशियल और इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया की मिक्स है जहाँ पे ये अटैक हुआ है. जैसे कि आप देख सकते हैं कि थोड़ा आगे देखते हैं, अगर आगे से दिखा पाएं, क्योंकि बहुत समय तक हम लोग यहाँ पे भी नहीं रह पाएंगे, क्योंकि आप जैसे कि देख सकते हैं कि काफ़ी जिस इलाके यहाँ तक पहुँचने के लिए जस्ट जो इलाके में है वहाँ पे यूक्रेनियन आर्मी की भी तैनात हो चुकी है. Well, our rolling coverage continues, slipping into a short break. On the other side, we'll keep getting you more live reports. As you can see right now, Republic is on the ground, only global channel getting you live images minutes after the shelling that took place in a residential area.
ये शवन मैं एक तस्वीर देख पा रहा हूँ. मैं अपने सहयोगी कैमरामैन रावत जी से कहूँगा, रावत जी आप आइए. देखिए जो मेन जगह है वो यही है. जो जगह है रावत जी, अगर आप उठा सके कैमरा तो दिखाने की कोशिश करिए. यही वो जगह है, ये देखिए यहीं पर जोरदार धमाका हुआ है और अभी भी हमें धुआं ही धुआं दिखाई दे रहा है.
Shelling took place in a residential area. Right now, what you see behind me is the impact of that shelling that took place. We are being told by the locals in this area that between 8 to 9, that's when the attack took place. Let me just tell you, by the visuals that you're seeing right now, perhaps you would feel that this is an industrial area. That's not the case. This is a factory right in between a residential area in Volensky, where we are currently reporting from. Just on the other side, there are multiple such residential buildings. In fact, Lobanovsky Avenue, from where a short while back Republic TV was showing you those images of moments before their attack. the missile attack took place. That's just behind us, but that area has been completely cordoned off. The Ukrainian army has taken some defensive positions, and that's why we are not reporting from that place. This is the first attack that took place, and then in Lobanovsky Avenue, that was the second attack. I'll ask Rawatji to come a little closer. Let me try and show you the impact that you are currently seeing of the shelling, or rather what the locals have been saying. This is a drone attack. Let me tell you, it's not possible for us to verify this at this stage. I'm simply going by what the locals have narrated. It's certainly very difficult to speak given the fact that there is a lot of smoke that is basically billowing out right now. What you see right now is even after almost an hour, right now what you are seeing is clearly the impact. Now this is the crater that has been created, the impact of the attack that took place. First we were told that this was the shelling that took place, and now locals are saying this was rather a drone attack. This area that you see just behind me, there is smoke still billowing out. We have been here for almost an hour right now, but it's been very, very difficult for the authorities here to control the fire which is just spreading. On the other side, which we are not going to go because the fire is still raging, and that's the reason why we are going to stay away. But look at this, look at the damage that has been caused after the attack that took place. A short while back, information also trickled in that right now what is happening is that the motive of the Russian army appears to be to attack residential areas, so that this basically creates some sort of a pressure on the Ukrainian government. Because remember, the kind of messaging that has been done by the Ukrainian government is that they are not willing to surrender. While on the one hand, you've had the Russian president essentially saying that people of Ukraine should take up arms and overthrow this government. The government, on the other hand, which enjoys a lot of support, they are essentially saying that they are not willing to surrender, and the impact of it is right now. You can see something that's happening on the ground is that this is not perhaps a military base that has come under attack. This is right in the center where this attack actually took place. So for those who believe that these attacks in Ukraine are taking place in military bases, Republic Media Network is showing you the truth, what's really happening. Look at the mangled remains of a car that was basically parked here. We are being told that this is a minivan that's been parked here, and the impact of it, the mangled remains of the car. Clearly, this was a massive shelling that has basically taken place, and that's the reason why the impact of this has been seen in far-reaching areas. If I can also show you, pan around and show you the other building that you currently see. That building, once we step out of it, we'll show you the glass panes of this particular building has been completely smashed. They've been completely smashed. That only goes on to show what's really happening on the ground. Let me also tell you that essentially right now, at least in the last 24 to 48 hours, we have seen, starting from Alexandra, from where we reported last. In fact, let me reiterate this. We are the only, look around us, we are the only global channel which has managed to reach right at the spot to understand what's really happening. The motive is to tell you, our viewers, that right now this war is no longer limited to the border areas. This war has entered, this war has reached the capital city of Ukraine. And the fact here is that Ukraine, at least Kyiv, is now being surrounded, is being completely surrounded by the Russian troops. The Ukrainian army is essentially trying to stop them, they're trying to slow down the movement of the Russian army. But what is happening is that while the Ukrainian army is engaging in a battle with the Russian army, it appears, prima facie from the investigation that has been done so far by the Ukrainian authorities, at least in some of the major areas, some of the residential areas, they are basically trying to attack. This is only trying to cause more pain to the Ukrainian people. Across, what I can tell you, across this entire area, what we have essentially seen is primarily a major part of buildings where people are still staying. So some people here in Kyiv, they've not been able to get out of it. Let me also quickly take you to this part. What you see here right now is basically flight models, the flight models that were kept here. As you can see right now, what has happened is flight models have been completely destroyed. If you can see, these are these flight engineering models that were kept inside. So this is more like a small makeshift factory that has basically come under attack. Clearly this has been destroyed. This is, as you can see, the impact still remains right now. I'm sorry, viewers, it's quite difficult to breathe and perhaps also talk, but we'll try our best to tell you what's really happened. So as I was telling all of you, the situation right now is only worsening in central Kyiv, where constantly there has been attacks that are taking place. Right now the count, we have also lost the count, if I can tell you this, that at least in most of these areas what's happening is that multiple explosions are taking place, especially at night. The shelling actually increases. So the frequency has been between 4 o'clock in the morning to about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We have seen several such reports of explosions taking place. This area, viewers, is quite a it still remains quite critical. I'll tell you why. Because when we were trying to come inside this area, it was getting very difficult because Ukrainian army had taken some positioning. There has been a gun battle that has taken place in some of the areas that are nearby. So clearly things have become very, very volatile at this point in time. We are trying to get you reports soon after these. Okay, we'll have to leave from here. We have to leave from here. Due to the security reasons, we perhaps may not be able to reveal the location of the bunker where we were just a while back, because remember what has essentially happened right now is the fact that there have been several air raid alerts that have been sounded off in Kyiv itself. And now what you see right now from here, a little far away, because we've been asked not to really disclose the area, the bunkers, because remember that remains one big concern, because across Kyiv at this point in time, since late last night, there is an increased activity and there is a fear that there could be an air alert, or rather an air bombing that could take place. We have seen reports that have come in from cities like Kharkiv, which have been constantly been bombarded, artillery fire that has been taking place, and that is the reason why people now are completely taking the help of these bunkers that have been created, or temporary shelters that have been created. For many people who are taking refuge in these air shelters, is that there is absolutely no connectivity. Connectivity remains a major concern. So the scenes that we saw inside, we were prohibited from filming it, but the scenes that we have seen, let me try and describe that. In fact, I'll also ask Mridul to also come in and describe that for our viewers. Let me first do it. What we saw is late last night, multiple times there were sirens that were sounded off. At least I can tell you, as a crew, we entered the air shelter, which is a little far away from where we were living. We had to actually rush towards these bunkers, primarily because at least on 3 to 4 occasions through the night till about 4 o'clock in the morning, there were multiple air raid alerts that were basically sounded off, and because of which people had to basically go inside these air shelters. Now, whether these are bomb proof, we are not very sure about it, because apart from these temporary shelters, you have metro stations that have also been converted into some sort of a shelter, some sort of a protection for the people of Kyiv. Now, let me just also tell you some reports that we have got from the northern side of Ukraine, where there has been an intense gun battle that has taken place. In Kyiv itself, there were 2 explosions that took place around 1 o'clock in the morning. This was basically coming in from the southwest direction, is what I'm being told. This is 20 kilometers from the city center where the first explosion took place. Another explosion, we are being told, is somewhere closer to one of the major airports of Kyiv. So the intense gun battle that is basically taking place in and around Kyiv, there is a major pushback. There is a major pushback on the part of the Ukrainian forces at this point in time. Let me bring in Mridul. ये जो इलाका है, इस इलाके को थोड़े हमारे दर्शकों को बताइए कि हमने क्या क्या देखा, क्योंकि करीबन लगातार हम जो देख रहे हैं कि इस पूरे ऐसे कई सारे इलाके हैं जहां पे हमने देखा करीबन 20 से 25 ऐसे शेल्टर्स बन चुके हैं.
Absolutely, there are 20 and 25 shelters are in the middle of the Kyiv, and I have to tell about the story of yesterday. Thrice we have rushed towards this shelter. There are air sirens sounded, and just we rushed into them. There are 3 or 4. Bilkul.
A temporary kind of a makeshift area that you see. So these, let me also tell the viewers, these are not something which looks like deliberately created beforehand, because they were really expecting some sort of an invasion to take place. So in some ways, some of the measures that have been taken by the Ukrainian government is more as an ad hoc basis, primarily to ensure the safety of the citizens here. The Ukrainian president, from time to time, he's been interacting with their citizens. There are videos that have emerged where he's been out on the street unshaven, which gives you the sense that he's still willing to fight the battle for his country. Multiple offers being made for his evacuation, but that has also been rejected.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 not-for-profit private university for 9 years, with top 10 ranked institutions in management, engineering, biotech, law, masscom, telecom, hospitality, fashion and more. Yet another top ranking for Amity University.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low-flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. That's just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians. The moment there was some sort of reports that were coming in of explosions near the Kharkiv area. As you can see right now, this area has been completely blocked and people are leaving the city. Now what you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. From a very distance, we can now see smoke billowing out. Alas, that's the Oblonov area of Kyiv. There is a Ukrainian army soldier who basically is telling them the defensive positions that they need to take, and then they would be creating a war zone.
Team Republic is at the border of Belarus and Poland, and this is the place where few kilometers across this border the talks will be happening today.
There's around 18 flights which will be carried out of which 2 to 3 are the Indian Air Force flight that would be evacuating the Indian strength.
अगर आप अभी के हालात पर नजर डालें तो अभी जो बसेस मैं दिखाना चाहूंगा, रोड पर जो गाड़ियां चल रही हैं, ये वो तस्वीरें हैं जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ मदद के लिए आगे बढ़ रही है. तो यूक्रेन के वासी मदद के लिए आगे आ रहे हैं. लोग सड़कों पर इसलिए उतरे हुए हैं कि वो मदद करें.
Patrick Lancaster with a special report for Republic Media Network. And right now we are in the city of Makivka, basically a suburb of Donetsk. And right behind me you can see the result of a shelling attack that took place last night, where this gas line took a direct hit, a fire ensued.
The war is happening, it's just not the war, but the war messaging that is quite important. Russia is claiming that it is damaging and affecting Ukraine, while Ukraine is retaliating.
Take a look at this. This is where children keep their clothes. Take a look at the large-scale destruction that has taken place, and what we can confirm is that this is perhaps the first place which was attacked by the Russian army when the Sukhoi took off from Belarus. This is the school. It's heartbreaking scenes that you can see right now. Whatever is remaining here of a classroom. This is the scene of a classroom right now after the bombing took place. Sotomay district actually happens to be a place which is not very far away. In fact, the latest intelligence reports suggest that the Russian troop actually is moving towards from this very place. It's difficult to move around, but just to give you a sense of the kind of destruction that has taken place in and around the school.
और यहाँ पर बहुत सारे लोग हैं, कुछ नौजवान हैं, कुछ सिविलियंस हैं, उनको यहाँ पर ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है और इस बात के लिए खास ख्याल रखा जा रहा है कि पूरा का पूरा माहौल जो है वैसा ही यहाँ पर दिया गया है। पूरी की पूरी ट्रेनिंग उसी बात की दी जा रही है कि कैसे युद्ध के क्षेत्र में ये लड़ सकते हैं। ये देखिए आप, कंधे पर बस्ता है, हाथों में बंदूक है और सामने निशाना है और अचूक निशाना होना चाहिए, उसके लिए लेजर टेक्निक का इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है।
War is happening, it's just not the war, but the war messaging that is quite important. Russia is claiming that it is damaging and affecting Ukraine, while Ukraine is retaliating, giving befitting replies. The war is going on all fronts, not only on ground, but also in terms of giving a message to the nations across the globe.
We're looking at a perfect business area mixed with some residential buildings. What you see straight down here is also some of the most important hospitals and medical centers. What we were told by the Ukrainian authorities is that their analysis shows that this will basically come eastwards. So the projectile missile is basically coming eastward, hits this particular building on the 16th and the 17th floor, leading to large-scale destruction.
Right behind me, you see the results of a shelling attack that took place last night. The shell came down and it impacted directly here and sent shrapnel across this area. This is Ukraine attacking their civilian areas here in Donetsk, as Ukraine's been doing for the last 8 years.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low-flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. That's just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians. The moment there was...
We are being told that 3 types of Sukhois, starting from a Sukhoi 35C and a Sukhoi 34, that took off from about 3 airfields, and the target was, one was Sotomay district and the other, I'm being told, was Kyiv. These are the two places where the aerial bombing took place from the Sukhoi. As the war is only intensifying, we have moved more than 10 days now into the war, and we are just seeing how the Ukrainians have also put up a stiff resistance. In fact, as far as the Ukrainian side is concerned, they are saying that there's been a massive losses that have been inflicted on the Russian army. They are pegging the numbers at roughly about over 10,000 Russian troops have been killed in action. You have about more than 40 attack helicopters that have been destroyed. You have fighter jets that have been brought down by the Ukrainian air defense system.
Right behind me, you see the results of a shelling attack that took place last night. The shell came down and it impacted directly here and sent shrapnel across this area. This is Ukraine attacking their civilian areas here in Donetsk, as Ukraine's been doing for the last 8 years.
What you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. That's just behind me, just behind me.
These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians.
These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians.
The fear that this war might just escalate. On the one hand, the Ukrainian army perhaps has been able to safeguard Kyiv, but the question in everyone's mind has been for how long. A lot of Ukrainians who are now fearing that the capital city, Kyiv, would perhaps witness what the city of Kharkiv has.
हमारी टीम पहुंच गई है वहां पर जहां पर हथियारों की ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है। पहले यहां पर हथियारों को कैसे पकड़ा जाता है, कैसे हैंडल किया जाता है, उस तरह की ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है। वो तस्वीर मैं आपको सीधी बता रहा हूं। इस समय आप देख सकते हैं कैसे बंदूक का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है, कैसे इसको आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। हर एक चीज यहां पर समझाई जा रही है, बताई जा रही है, और उसके बाद कैसे टारगेट सेट किया जाता है। और यहाँ पर बहुत सारे लोग हैं, कुछ नौजवान हैं, कुछ सिविलियंस हैं, उनको यहाँ पर ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है और इस बात के लिए खास ख्याल रखा जा रहा है कि पूरा का पूरा माहौल जो है वैसा ही यहाँ पर दिया गया है। पूरी की पूरी ट्रेनिंग उसी बात की दी जा रही है कि कैसे युद्ध के क्षेत्र में ये लड़ सकते हैं। ये देखिए
Well, in fact, now we are getting you images from a mall in central Kyiv, which just opened about 10 minutes ago. Many would be wondering as to what are we really doing inside a mall, that too in a war-torn zone. But the fact of the matter, viewers, is that right now the challenges are beyond just the battlefield. It is now reaching every household in Ukraine, and that is the shortage of food supplies in Ukraine. That, remember, is going to be the other big challenge that one is going to face. Why are we here? The reason being is that the city has been under curfew for almost over 48 hours, and the curfew has been lifted here, but we are being told that's for a very brief period. And look at this. This mall has opened for just about 10 minutes. In the last 10 minutes, look at the number of people who have actually entered right now inside the mall. The number is just going to increase. The image that you're seeing right now on your TV screen is a mall that has been completely full.
But the fact of the matter is that there is going to be a huge challenge in the days to come, because the people that we have spoken to, suppliers in hotels, they are saying that the stocks essentially is going to last max to max for another week or so. So the wholesale stock is much lesser than what you see. Once these items are taken or bought by the customers, to replenish the stock is going to be a major challenge. There are already shelves that have been completely empty. I'll ask Surendra Rawatji to come to this side and show you shelves that have already become empty. Take a look at this. Let's try and go inside and show you. Here, take a look at this particular, where you see already stocks that are completely empty. Take a look at this. Shelves which are completely empty. You have stocks which are not enough. You have people already coming out and they're buying whatever they can. Take a look at this. So people are literally hoarding at this point in time, and rightfully so, because right now the fear is that for how long will the stocks last? That's the bigger concern. Take a look at this. Almost every area that you go to, every store, every department that you go into, I'll try and focus on the empty shelves a little bit, because that will give you a sense of the reality right now in Ukraine. Many would say that perhaps this gives you a different optimistic image, but it's not really that optimistic. Let me tell you that. The reason being is that the back end is essentially indicating right now, the back end is indicating that the stocks may not last for a very, very long time. And that's the bigger concern. The debris of this building, that's on the 16th and the 17th floor is what we are being told, when a projectile missile hit this building around 8 o'clock in the morning. Surprisingly, not many people were living here, but Ukrainian authorities do say that about 2 people have been killed in this projectile missile attack that took place. On the one hand, the Ukrainian authorities are now claiming that this was a Russian projectile missile that has hit this building. Russians on the other side have now put out saying that this was the Ukrainian air defense system that was at work and the missile was fired, leading to this kind of destruction. Of course, this is a scenario of he said, she said, but the fact of the matter is that this is exactly what happens when a war actually reaches a city, an urban area where you're looking at a large-scale destruction right now. Let me just quickly take you a little closer to try and understand the level of destruction that has basically taken place. What you see is that this is primarily a busy business area, including some residential buildings. What you see on the ground floor are eateries, gymnasiums, ATMs, all of that in this particular building. In the above floors where people were living. Look at the condition right now. You look at the condition right now where you see the debris lying all over right now. This is the situation. I'll ask Rawatji also to come in a little closer. Some really heartbreaking images of what you see, books that are lying strewn all over. You're looking at this kind of destruction which has now reached residential areas. While initially, if you remember what the Russians have been saying, that this was a war, a military operation that would be perhaps limited to only the military bases. But what we have seen, this is the 4th day. In fact, this is the 4th site that we have basically come to, starting from the first day itself, where we saw Alexander, the first area, a residential area which came under attack. Then we've been to other areas. Even yesterday, just a few meters away from this particular place, there was yet another attack that took place. So simultaneously, while this attack took place, what you see, there were 2 attacks, one at 8 o'clock in the morning right here in this particular building, and few meters away from here, roughly about 500 meters if I'm not wrong, there was another industrial area which was attacked, from where we had also brought you images yesterday. But clearly what's become very evident right now, Priyanka, is that Russian army certainly targeting these residential areas, and Ukraine has also provided some evidence to back the claim that these attacks that you are seeing right now, they are taking place in residential areas, and this is being carried out by the Russian troops. Time and again we have seen communication essentially coming in from the Ukrainian side that there is enough evidence that they have, that they are willing to share it with the global world, that these atrocities, what they are calling war crimes that have been committed by none other than
the Russian troops. As far as the support that you are seeing right now that Ukraine is receiving from across the globe, you've had multiple countries coming together, an umbrella coalition trying to support Ukraine in their attempt to stop the Russians. But what you're looking at in the meanwhile is large-scale destruction that has taken place. While we speak right now, there were talks of peace talks were supposed to take place in Belarus, which Ukraine has rejected on the grounds that they are willing to talk to them, provided this happens in a different place. But let me come back. Let me describe what we are seeing right now. You're looking at a perfect business area mixed with some residential buildings. What you see straight down here is also some of the most important hospitals or medical centers. What we were told by the Ukrainian authorities is that their analysis shows that this has basically come eastwards. So the projectile missile is basically coming eastwards, hits this particular building on the 16th and the 17th floor, leading to large-scale destruction. And this has also been caught, Priyanka, on security cameras of nearby buildings. The security cameras essentially show the sudden hit that comes in from this projectile missile, leading to the kind of destruction that you are witnessing right now. While it's quite surprising that the casualties aren't that much, perhaps at that point in time, on that particular floor when this hit, there weren't too many people, and somehow the authorities have also managed to ensure that this building essentially does not collapse. Because we did try, Priyanka, a while back to come to this particular area, but we were told not to come in because the authorities were still present. They were still looking at the stability of this particular building, because if you see, this actually hits the beams of, or rather the foundations of the building, and of course it would have destabilized this entire building, and that's the reason why this area was cordoned off for quite some time. But the reason why we decided to actually come here and show it to our viewers is that we've basically made this endeavor, no matter how difficult it has been for us, very, very challenging to reach these sites, but there is an importance attached to these very images that is going to be beamed across the world, that is for the world to really know that it is the civilians, it is the local population of Ukrainians who are basically suffering because of this war that has been waged by Russia. Ukraine, on the other side, time and again has been messaging, saying that this particular war, it's a war that has been chosen by Russia. It is not that something that they have chosen. But for how long will this continue? Because what you're looking at almost on a daily basis, Priyanka, is that we are looking at residential areas that have come under attack. Multiple such locations, starting from, if I can recall for our viewers, we went to Alexandra. That's again a suburban area. 2 days ago, we had seen a completely a residential area, over tens of thousands of people who were living there, and there too we saw large-scale destruction. There the casualty numbers were roughly about 11 to 12. Then we also went to another location just yesterday that was a mix of an industrial plus residential area that came under attack, and we were there just about an hour after the attack took place, and what we saw is that there too there's been large-scale destruction even in the residential area. So it's important to point out here is that how things are basically developing with every passing day. Is it just going to worsen given the fact that there has been no breakthrough as far as talks are concerned? Ukraine again has been emphasizing that they're willing to do the peace talk, but not in Belarus, the very place from various missiles have been launched against Ukraine. So that's the condition that has been put by Ukraine. But the fact of the matter is that things are only worsening, especially in the capital city of Kyiv. There have been attacks that have been taking place in various other parts. So a short while ago, we went to a place called Metro Volynska. That particular place, we've seen a large-scale migration now taking place. The United Nations basically estimates that over 150,000 Ukrainians have already left the country. the fact here is that not only people, women, children who are being affected, of course, you also have families who have been completely destroyed. Very heartbreaking images of how elderly people who were living alone, they had to leave, packing their bags, just one bag, and they have left. Several such images have been doing the rounds. In fact, let me just tell you that here too there are a lot of families who were there. So the images that we can see right now, those images that were just taken moments after the attack, we've seen some people going back to their apartments, rummaging through whatever is left, and then perhaps leaving from here. So that's the kind of image that we have seen across this area. Let me ask Rawatji also to show you the entire area. You'll get a sense that this is right in the middle of the city where this attack has actually taken place, and perhaps how unnerving it can get that you have residential areas being completely that has come under attack, and you're looking at perhaps places which would have been normal areas for the Ukrainians to come and go, and perhaps even they haven't thought. Look at this particular image here. This is perhaps a mall, a small mall where you have cafes and also a shopping area. Even lights are still on. So you've had people perhaps who had to leave minutes after this attack took place, and thereafter not in a position to come back and do anything about it. So that's the defining image of a war. But the fact of the matter is that the destruction simply continues. It hasn't stopped. It continues unabated. We have seen air raid alerts taking place in various parts of the city, and that has resulted in people actually taking shelter in places like this. If you take a right side, you would actually look at more like a temporary shelters that have been created in the area so that people can immediately rush when the sirens are basically sounded off. In fact, we as a team, as a crew, we've been subjected to that since late last night, when rather than staying in a hotel, we've had to actually go into bunkers. And not about us, perhaps we are not the ones who are really suffering. It's the people who are suffering here, and it's very difficult to recount what they're going through. We were speaking to people who've come from Kyiv, or we were talking to them over the phone, and they're saying that now there is nothing left. We don't have water, we don't have food. That's the condition in other far-flung areas from Kyiv, and this is how it is. It is constantly, it's becoming like this. Take a look at this. Images of ambulances on the street, pretty much common right now. That's the image of an ambulance leaving from the area, and this has become even more repetitive, or perhaps I would say very, very common on the streets of Kyiv right now, where we're seeing ambulances, military vehicles, artilleries that's being transported on the roads from one place to the other. So that's the kind of situation that we are looking at. So two places that we have covered so far, and in both the places, let me just tell you, it's becoming even more evident that Kyiv is becoming the nerve center of this battleground. It is becoming even more difficult for people to stay there. In fact, late last evening around 9 o'clock, Abhishek, when we got that first message of an explosion that took place, that was close to the heels of the talks that were going on between Ukraine and Russia in Belarus. But moments after the talks got over, what we witnessed was explosions taking place in the city of Kyiv, and not very far from the Kyiv Central Railway Station, from where we boarded this particular train, where the explosion took place. Tracks were actually damaged. Let me go back to the visuals right now, Abhishek, because I think so all our viewers would like to see. Abhishek, if you, I would like to take a leave out of the history books. If you remember, Abhishek, you are you're a student of history also. You would remember those images of the partition.
where trains were overflowing, people on the rooftops. I think so. We are witnessing similar, if not exactly very close to what happened during the partition back in India. Today, what you see right now is a direct result of what a war does. Displaces the number of people who have left their homes. They're not very sure where they headed to. A lot of people, Abhishek, they were saying at the railway station that we'll just take the train whichever is available. Doesn't matter where it goes, we just need to leave Kyiv at this point in time. So a lot of people were not really looking at where the trains are going, because the difficulty that people are facing right now is that all of these trains are completely packed.
जब हम यहाँ पहुँचे तो यहाँ पे काफ़ी ज़्यादा भीड़ थी और लैंग्वेज प्रॉब्लम है तो हमें पता नहीं चल रहा था।
सबसे बड़ी डिफ़िकल्टी क्या रहा, क्योंकि जितने लोगों से हम लोग बातचीत करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं वो कह रहे हैं कि देखिए एक तरह से तो ये है कि हमें बॉर्डर इलाके तक पहुंचना है, बट जो तकलीफ़ एक भारतीय लोगों को फेस करनी हो रही है स्टेशन में पहुंचने के बाद, उसके बारे में आप क्या बता सकते हैं?
अब इस बारे में यही कहा जा सकता है कि जैसे कि यहाँ पे ये इंग्लिश कंट्री तो है नहीं, तो इस वजह से हम जो भी इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं जो भी है हम ना लोगों से बात कर पाते हैं, ना लोग हमें कुछ बता पाते हैं, और जो बोर्ड्स वगैरह हैं वो सब कुछ लाइक इनकी लैंग्वेज में है, तो हमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा डिफ़िकल्टी हो रही है। तो फिर हमने ट्रांसलेट करके किसी तरह से पता किया कि ये ट्रेन कैसे हमें मिलेगी।
Currently, we are broadcasting from one of the bunkers in Kyiv. Remember, since late last night, after the talks that took place between Russia and Ukraine, there's been heavy bombardment, at least in the city of Kyiv. Kharkiv, on the other hand, has also been completely pounded by the Russian troops. But as far as Kyiv is concerned, let me just describe what we have witnessed in front of our eyes over the last 6 to 7 hours, starting around at 9 o'clock in the night when a big explosion took place in the center of Kyiv. We are not very sure of the exact location of that explosion, but videos that have emerged, which we've also sent across to our newsroom, indicates that this was in the heart of the city. As far as casualties are concerned, no word from the Ukrainian authorities at this point in time. But let me quickly take our viewers through what's the development like across Kyiv. So far, what's the situation in terms of the advancement of the Russian troops are concerned, because that's where the major concern lies at this point in time. In fact, southwest of Kyiv, recent satellite imagery has been indicating that there's been a massive Russian troop equipment advancement. In fact, that is almost 40 miles long, troop equipment that's wending through various cities of Ukraine and moving towards Kyiv. Now that's the big concern at this point in time. If at all they manage to break through and enter Kyiv. They've been trying this for the last 5 days, but there has been a massive pushback on the front of the Ukrainian army. And perhaps the boost that they're getting right now is from the civilians who have also taken up the arms. We do not know at this stage the number of casualties, but the Ukrainian Defense Ministry has been putting out information about the loss of Russian soldiers, which has now gone more than 5,000. 5,000 soldiers, armored vehicles of the Russian troops, tanks, and in fact now images also coming in of Russian fighter jets that have been brought down. Let me also bring in my colleague Mridul right now, who's also going to take us through the latest update that we have received from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukrainian Army. That's a long list, so perhaps Mridul can read out some of the important points. Mridul, if you can just take points of
First of all, I would like to say separate unit of the most combat ready unit of the armed forces of Belarus have started moving to the state border of Ukraine in Volyn direction. Okay. So troops are moving, and in addition the territory of Belarus continues to be for combat stories for army, operational, tactical and special aircraft of the RF armed force to perform tasks. Secondly, the enemy losing offensive potential, loses along with the human faced numerous cases of violation of the laws of war, international humanitarian law law by the Russian aggressor have been recorded along the entire offensive line. One more thing, Ukrainian flags are hung on columns of Russian military equipment. This is the main part. Such cases have been observed in the settlement of Peramoha, Nova Basin, Kyiv region and the Kharnotsova highway of Cherniv. This is the reason. Kyiv, Nova Basin, they are the main reason of the Ukraine. And one more thing, tanks from the Russian occupation forces on their way through the villages of Borodyanka, where the explosion shook yesterday. And one more thing, on the order of their commanders, begin to deliberately destroy infrastructure and housing, and a separate group of tanks open chaotic fire on a high-rise building.
After almost 10 hours of a grueling journey all the way from Kyiv, finally we have landed in Lviv, where what you see right now is a clear-cut case of what really happens when a country is ravaged by war. It essentially leads to the kind of displacement that you see right now. While there would be some faces with a smile on their face, primarily because they would come across as people who are relieved to a certain extent. Because where we are right now is in western Ukraine, which has largely been untouched. But the question is for how long perhaps even the western Ukrainian side would remain untouched from the kind of attacks that have taken place across other parts of Ukraine. If you look at perhaps down south, the eastern side, Kharkiv, and while we were traveling, even on our way to Lviv, the kind of reports that came in from the very place that we were broadcasting earlier in Kyiv, we've seen large-scale destruction, a TV network that has basically come under attack, and then you finally have a lot of news now coming in how Indian students still finding it very difficult. They're still finding it very difficult to reach home. In fact, right now what you see is a group of Indian students who finally been able to at least reach western Ukraine in Lviv. From here, they would perhaps be leaving for the borders of Poland, Hungary, as well as Slovakia. But a lot of Indian students still narrating the difficulty that they have faced in terms of reaching here. For instance, if someone is actually in Kyiv, how difficult it would have been for them to even reach the railway station. They were not difficult to get a cab. It was difficult for them to get a bus. For them to actually reach the railway station in itself was a huge challenge. That task that many would perhaps keep it aside, saying that they need to reach the borders safely. But here there are students who would be barely in their 20s. For them, they've not seen a war unfolding just before their eyes. How difficult would that situation be? Their parents back home worried about their return. However, the assurances that have been given by the government, well, it certainly is some sort of a relief, but at the same time, the challenges are still a lot. Let me try and get in some of the students, see what they have actually gone through. Let me ask you this question. Somewhere down the line, you may be a little relieved that you're not in Kyiv. You are here. But I also want you to tell our viewers the difficulty that you may have faced leaving your residences in Kyiv or Kharkiv and coming all the way. Tell us a little bit about the difficulties that you all have faced. What went through your mind while you were in the train, hoping that you reach a safer place?
Of course. So we've been out from 8 o'clock in the morning yesterday. We left our bunkers because we were told by the embassy that we were supposed to leave, and we left. First of all, we had to leave our hostel. The people, the guards, there were military surrounding our hostel who told us very strictly that all of you are not supposed to go because there's a very high risk. People are standing with snipers in our hostel. They told us because they were our friends, so they guided us from the back door and everything. So we got out. We had to get into the metro. The metro that came, we had to wait in the metro station for 1.5 hours. Metro came, got down one metro station before we went to Plosta. Then we had to walk around 2 kilometers for the train station with all of these luggages. We went to the train station as we were told by the embassy, and we were told that there were special evacuation trains. Nothing.
So you all essentially found it very difficult to even spot the train. Which train are you supposed to take?
So there is no evacuation train as given in the advisory. We stood there, we were pushed, we were kicked
everything happened.
So for how many days were you there at the Kyiv?
One night. We stood for one night.
And one full night.
We came at 12 noon and whole night we spent there. We booked tickets. Can you believe it? We booked tickets so that we have the
Today
seats.
morning, 5
a.m. And that train was fake. It was fake and they have taken our money. The train didn't come at all.
We waited for 2 hours.
Then we had a contact in some other university. He came and he told us like there's a only train that you can get in. If you don't get in, this is your last chance.
We are around 60 to 60.
Why don't you also tell your parents, your family members who would be extremely worried? So perhaps one opportunity for them, for you to communicate with them, tell them, of course, the difficulty, I can't take that away from all of you, and we all stand in these difficult times. But at the same time, what is it that you would like to tell your parents now that you've reached to a place which is considered to be slightly safer?
I'd like to tell every parent who's worried about their kids stuck in Lviv, Kyiv, everywhere in Ukraine.
Your kids are strong. They'll do it. They'll reach your home safely.
Can I just tell you, at least you all finally have a smile on your face, and that's important. That's important because
We survived the war. We survived. We did it on our own. No one helped it. No one helped it.
what you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. Take a look at it. Low-flying fighter jets that you see clearly. That's the situation right now on the ground. That's just behind me, just behind me. These are the shoulder guns that are basically used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. These missile prototypes have been laid down here, and after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown. A demo is basically given to them. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians. The moment there was some sort of reports that were coming in of explosions near the Kharkiv area. As you can see right now, this area has been completely blocked and people are leaving the city. Now what you see right now are fighter jets on the skies of Kyiv, caught on Republic camera. From a very distance, we can now see smoke billowing out. Alas, that's the Oblonov area of Kyiv. There is a Ukrainian army soldier who basically is telling them the defensive positions that they need to take.